This is our, is everybody here? This is our rescheduled work session from last week, starting now, and then our council meeting will actually start at 6. So we'll go through the agenda and have our directors and other folks tell us what these are about, and then we'll actually be voting on this agenda starting at 6. So. All right, first approval of minutes. We will have a proclamation for Child Abuse Prevention Month that the mayor will handle. After that, we have approval of minutes, March 7th, 2022, 6 p.m. council meeting, March 14th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session, March 21st, 2022, 9:30 a.m. work session, March 21st, 2022, 10 a.m. council meeting. Any questions? All right, public hearings, resolution number 22068, approved request for restaurant retail liquor license for El Patron Mexican Grill and Cantina Incorporated, doing business as El Patron Mexican Grill and Cantina at 1614 Beltline Road Southwest, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
No changes, it's good.
Okay, any questions? All right, resolution 22069, approved request for restaurant retail liquor license for J.H. Lee, doing business as Sushi Sumo at 1313 Point Mallard Parkway, Suite D, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
No changes.
All right, any questions?
You like that place?
Yeah.
Frequent there often.
Resolution 22070, approved request for off-premise beer and wine liquor license for Shrishani Sai Kripa, I'm totally butchering that, incorporating doing business as Texaco at 819 6th Avenue Northeast, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
No changes.
All right, any questions? Thanks, Lori. Ordinance 224497, approved rezoning request 138522 for Adam Davidson, Holland Meadows subdivision to rezone 18.27 acres from R6 residential to R5 residential located at 3411 Deer Road Southeast. Public hearing was set on March 7th, 2022.
Yes, this is property on Deer Road. It was previously zoned all R6 and they went through plat. They've since come back, and market changes. They are looking to rezone the outer perimeter of this subdivision as R5 patio homes, with the center staying as R6, and it will require a replat of this subdivision as well, if approved.
All right, any questions? All right, ordinance 224498, approved rezoning request 138722 to rezone 1.52 acres from R2 single-family residential district to R6 single-family semi-attached residential district located at 809 Caradale Street Southwest. Public hearing was set on March 7th, 2022.
Yes, this is the former location of the Decatur Florist. There were several rezoning attempts on this one in the past to try to get a business zoning for it to continue. Those were not favorable. This one came before the Planning Commission looking to go to R6. I believe they're looking at 12 townhomes is the current plan for this property, and this was recommended unanimously by the Planning Commission.
All right, any questions? Do you know if the developer's coming?
I believe that Mr. Hill is supposed to be here for the meeting, yes.
All right, any other questions? And do you know, do we have traffic counts on Caradale?
We do. The latest we have is 2020 still. The 2021s won't be out until probably end of summer. At this location, just north of 7,300 vehicles per day. You go closer to Danville Road, you get a little closer to 9,000, but there's a counter right close to this
And
one.
where are we on capacity?
Capacity on that roadway is 17.8 a day, so at 7,300, you're below 50% capacity on that.
Okay. And we would estimate 12 townhomes would bring 48 or so. I don't know how y'all calculate that. But
12 townhomes, I believe the generation on that is 6.5 trips a day on one of those.
So double that.
Somewhere around in there, yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, ordinance 224499, approved pre-zoning request 138422, Villarreal property to pre-zone 14.57 acres to R4 multifamily residential district located at approximately 2900 Upper River Road. Public hearing set March 7th, 2022.
Yes, this is a pre-zoning, looking for the R4 multifamily zoning. Pre-zoning, of course, if approved, would have 6 months to complete the annexation request to receive this zoning.
All right, any questions? Ordinance 224500, approved rezoning request 138622, Morningside Patel to rezone 3.51 acres from B1 to B2 located at 1801 through 1814, and 1814 11th Street Southeast. Public hearing was set on March 7th, 2022.
Yes, this is the Morningside Shopping Center, is what everyone knows it as, and this request was not recommended for approval by the Planning Commission.
That request, was the planning commission feedback against a packaged liquor store, or that the B2 zoning is too broad to?
It was mainly that the B2 zoning would be too broad. This is right in the middle of a very large residential area. It's always been a neighborhood commercial center, and so the fear by the Planning Commission, the feeling that I received from them was going to B2 would just allow way too many uses for that neighborhood commercial center.
And I know we have this come up other times. Is there some way or some opportunity to take a liquor store or package store out of B2 so that concern can be?
So that would require us to re-examine our alcohol laws on the whole. The problem with just addressing something when it comes to alcohol in the zoning ordinance is it also touches other areas of city code. So it's a larger conversation than just a zoning issue when it comes to that.
It just seems like these requests are denied mainly because of the fear of what else, not the actual request.
And that seems to be the general feeling, and I think that's certainly a conversation that we may need to have sooner rather than later.
Okay. Any other questions? And that was not recommended?
That was not recommended for
Unanimously.
approval unanimously.
Okay. All right, resolutions. Resolution 22071, declare a rail car no longer needed by Decatur Fire and Rescue as surplus and authorize disposal. I don't see Becky, but, or do you?
Well, we had a rail car that was for training purposes, was donated to us. We no longer need it, and had somebody that's gonna carry it away for us. So basically, we just need to declare it surplus so we can get it off our books.
Okay, any questions? Resolution 22072, approve purchase and upgrades to the police department range gates. Chief?
This is to change over the gate. The gate's actually out there, but we're looking to change over for the swipe card access and all the accessories that go along with that to have, so our officers can go out there and use the gate, the range more often.
All right, any questions? I know the next one is related to that. Resolution 22073, approve power pole and meter installation for improvements of gate at police
This
department
is just
range.
simply to supply the power to it. We had to do, there's power out there, but it's so far away, you'd have to do a bunch of other things too. So this was the cheapest route to get that there.
Okay. Any questions? Thank you, sir. Resolution 22074, approve the upgrade and replacement of lights at Jimmy John's Tennis Complex. Mr. Lake.
Thank you. This is to replace the current lights with LED lights. We were replacing what was there with just LED bulbs. It didn't work. They didn't light the facility well. So what we did is we got with Musco and they did a lighting study, and this information is where that came from.
All right, any questions? Is that unassigned? Okay. All right, resolution 22075, authorize the mayor to execute a community service agreement with the Decatur Downtown Merchants and Business Association.
Council, this is a resolution to allow the mayor to sign a community service agreement with the Decatur Downtown Merchants and Business Association. They're the organization that operates the logistics for our third Friday each month. Fundraising efforts fell a little short this year due to some COVID issues, and they informed us or council that the first third Friday was not going to be feasibly possible without some additional help. That's kind of where we came in, and so I'm not sure if Edie's here. She's probably coming, but she can maybe provide some color on exactly how the money would be spent. But the $3,000 is so that we can have that first third Friday here in April.
All right, any questions? All right, resolution 22076, approve Garver Engineering Agreement for Upper River Road intersection improvements at Indian Hills Road and Old River Road.
Yeah, Mayor, Council, this is a resolution to approve engineering, just the engineering design for that intersection at Upper River, Old River / Indian Hills Road intersection.
All right, any questions?
I'd like to give an update on something that kind of parallels that. We've been working with Joe Whitter on lighting improvements, roadway lighting improvements in that area. And they're going to need to move some lines to get that done, increase their conductor size and such. And they, like a lot of folks right now, they've got it in their stack of to-dos. Carl, you can relate to that, can't you?
I can.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions for Carl? Resolution 22077, approve expenditure for 3 furnished toolboxes from Home Depot Pro. Omnia contract 16154 for the city garage.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Yes, so this is to furnish our garage. The 3 toolboxes will get us for both sides. They are fully furnished. This is not, this is heavy-duty quality tools. So total price is $25,500.
All right, any questions for Daniel? Thank you, sir. Next is resolution 22078, accept donation from Decatur Foundation of Greater Decatur for dog park shades in the amount of $55,000.
Yeah, Council, this is a resolution that will allow us to spend a donation received from the trust of Ann Mayfield. It was given to the Decatur Foundation, who then passed it along to us. So this resolution just allows us to spend the donated money on dog park shades.
All right, any questions? Thank you, sir. Next, resolution 22079, award bid number 22020R for a tower Christmas tree to Lights of Christmas in the amount of $113,725.08.
Yes, sir. This was we asked for requested bids for a 30-foot artificial tree to be placed out in front of City Hall. We got 2 responses. One was, the lowest bidder was at $78,000 for over a 2-year period. They actually, this whole project is that they purchase the tree, they put it up, decorate it, take it down, and store it during the off seasons. However, the low bidder was deemed to be not responsible. They've never had experience with this particular tree, the type of tree. They also could not explain to us how it was going to be anchored out in front of City Hall, which kind of posed a problem there. So the second bidder was at $113,000 and will meet all the specs of the bid.
Okay, any questions? All right, ordinances first reading, ordinance 224504, approve option agreement with Richard Winstead for purchase of 2nd Avenue lots 5 and 6. You mean to go read the next one?
That's
All
good.
right.
That'd be great.
Ordinance 224505, approve option agreement with Richard Winstead for purchase of 2nd Avenue lots 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, and 30.
Yeah, these are the lots that are contiguous to the one that we approved in January. Mr. Winstead is looking to expand his footprint for 75 Class A apartments that will encompass these lots.
Okay, any questions? Will we put the same language of start date and
Exactly.
finish date?
It is.
All
It's in
right.
the contract.
All right, any other questions? All right, ordinance 224506, approved dissolution of the Park and Recreation Board.
This is something that we discussed with the president, vice president, Park and Recreation Board, along with other people who were involved. One of the examples, I think, the shades that we just discussed. Susie Wiley has a passion for Wilson Morgan Park, the things there, along with other people. So we work with them to do things in the community, hear what they have to say. With this being an advisory board, we of course can listen and get advice from everybody in the community. So I think there's a better way to do this than, most of the people on this board right now are timed out. People generally have a passion for certain areas of the city. In other words, like with Susie, she's really big into Wilson Morgan, Friends Delano at Delano Park. I think the public-private partnerships that we are starting with those things make a lot more sense to carry on moving forward.
Okay, any questions for Jason? Thank you, sir. Boards and committees, appoint Jackson Parker to the DDRA board to fill unexpired term of Jack Bryan with term expiring June 21st, 2026. Any questions, comments? Okay, appoint Meg Newcomb to the DDRA board with term expiring June 1st, 2028. Any comments or questions? All right, if there's any directors, I know Rochelle has something, but any directors that have anything, if you want to go ahead and say those things, probably now is a good time to do that. But we'll let Rochelle go.
I do. As you know, we're in the process of recruiting for a police chief, and I sent out a summary of what those the candidates selected for next level consideration. Just need some guidance from the council on what direction you want to go in.
I'll just say, I know it seemed like there were 3 candidates that received more than the majority of the council wanted to interview. I had a 4th candidate, but if I'm the only person that wants to interview that person, then I would say we not interview him. And then as far as interviews, I think as soon as we can start that process is fine. That's just my 2 cents, but happy to hear anybody else's thoughts.
I'll second what he said.
So just so we're clear, we're going to proceed with the interview for retired Captain Jones, acting Chief Pinion, and retired Lieutenant Buckley.
Yes.
Okay. Do you want to set a date for those?
I think, obviously, the sooner, if we can maybe look at next week, is that?
That's probably doable. They're all local. Do you want to do it next Monday afternoon before the work session? You need at least, I would say at least an hour and a half per candidate.
Yeah, I mean, we can look at schedules. Do you want to check with them and ask them for a few time slots through next week
Okay.
and see what works for us?
All right, I'll do that. Thank you.
All right, any other directors have anything? All right, our council meeting starts at 6, so we will be adjourned. That's when our public hearings are, but we'll be adjourned until 6 o'clock. So thank you. call the meeting to order. Dane Shaw will deliver our invocation and lead us in the pledge.
Father, we are grateful to be here tonight as a city to gather to make decisions, and we just ask for your peace to envelop this room. We thank you for wisdom, and we thank you for your grace. In your name I pray, Jesus. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Dane. Roll call. Here. 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 All right, first item we have is a proclamation by the mayor.
All right. And what this is regarding is Child Abuse Prevention Month. And it's a rather long proclamation, so I'm going to read a portion of it. Whereas individuals, businesses, schools, and faith-based and community organizations must make children a top priority and take action to support the physical, social, emotional, and educational development and competency of all children. And whereas during the month of April, Prevent Child Abuse Alabama, in collaboration with the Alabama Department of Child Abuse and Neglect Prevention, will be engaging communities throughout Alabama in a coordinated effort to prevent child abuse and neglect by promoting awareness of healthy child development, positive parenting practices, and the type of concrete support families need within their communities. Now therefore, I, Tab Boland, Mayor of the City of Decatur, Alabama, do hereby proclaim April 2022 as Child Abuse Prevention Month and urge all residents to engage in activities whose purpose is to strengthen families and communities to provide the optimal environment for healthy child development. And I will give this back to you. You lead our pack. Would you like to say anything?
I just appreciate the support of the community. I'm Susan Roberts, Executive Director of Parents and Children Together. And I thank you for what all of you do to help protect their children. And remember, wear blue this month in recognition of Child Abuse Awareness Month. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mayor. We'll move into approval of minutes. Anybody have any issue with taking them together? B? Okay. We'll take A, C, and D first. So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Those minutes are approved 5-0. Next is B, March 14th, 2022, 5 p.m. work session.
So moved. Second.
Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Those minutes are approved 4-0 with 1 abstention. Next, we'll move into public hearings. First one is resolution number 22068, approve request for restaurant retail liquor license for El Patron Mexican Grill and Cantina Incorporated, doing business as El Patron Mexican Grill and Cantina at 1614 Beltline Road Southwest, Decatur, Alabama 35601. Lori?
They've met all criteria.
All right, this is a public hearing, so if there's anyone here to speak on this issue, you can speak now. So moved. Seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed. I did hear a motion by Mr. Pepper.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Resolution 22068 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution 22069, approved request for restaurant retail liquor license for J.H. Lee, doing business as Sushi Sumo at 1313 Point Mallard Parkway, Suite D, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
They've met all criteria.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this issue, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Wagner.
Aye.
McMasters.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Resolution 22069 is approved 5-0. Next is resolution 22070, Approve request for off-premise beer and wine liquor license for Shrishani Sai Kripa Incorporated, doing business as Texaco at 819 6th Avenue Northeast, Decatur, Alabama 35601.
They've met all criteria.
All right, this is another public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak, can speak now. Seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Resolution 22070 is approved 5-0. Ordinance 224497, approve rezoning request 138522 for Adam Davidson, Holland Meadows subdivision to rezone 18.27 acres from R6 residential to R5 residential located at 3411 Deer Road Southeast. Public hearing was set on March 7th, 2022.
Yes, this is rezoning 138522. The applicant is P. Wright McAnally for Adam Davidson, and the request is to rezone 18.27 acres from R6 to R5. That is single-family, semi-attached townhomes going to single-family patio homes. And this was recommended unanimously for approval by the Planning Commission.
All right, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this item, you can speak now. All right, seeing no one here to speak, we'll consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike,
Second.
second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 224497 is approved with a vote of 5-0. Next is ordinance number 224498. Approve rezoning request 138722 to rezone 1.52 acres from R2 single-family residential district to R6 single-family semi-attached residential district located at 809 Caradale Street Southwest. Public hearing was set on March 7th, 2022.
Yes, rezoning 138722. The applicant is P. Wright McAnally for Danny Hill, and the request rezone 1.52 acres from R2 to R6. That is single-family residential going to single-family semi-attached townhomes. And this was recommended for approval unanimously by the Planning Commission.
Okay, this is a public hearing. We'll go ahead and open the public hearing. There are several people signed up to speak on this item, and I'm just going to go down the list here. And the first one I have is Ken West, but he had to leave.
He expressed to you, and I think to Hunter,
Yeah.
his thoughts.
Yeah, he did, and I can briefly, and when you speak, Ms. Wilson, you can as well, but he lived across the street, had concerns about lack of sidewalks and additional traffic count on Caradale, and maybe, I think one concern he had is he did not receive notification is what he told me as well, so. And if I miss anything when you get up, feel free to fill me in. And next is Mr. Wilson.
3 minutes.
Yeah, I'll get to that. We do 3 minutes for public comment. Just ask you to state your name and your address. We try not to be redundant, so if there's similar issues that keep coming up, try not to do that. And when we get to 3 minutes, you'll hear an alarm that Ms. Stephanie has, and just try to wrap up your final point at that time. So go ahead, Mr. Wilson.
Rob Wilson, 1306 Caradale Street. We have talked with most all the neighbors up and down Caradale Street, as well as Austin Street, streets that run on each side of Caradale Street and cross Caradale Street. We are all for, I specifically am all for increasing business in Decatur. I moved a company from Colorado back to Alabama, so I'm all for it. We just want this thing done the right way. The traffic, there's too much traffic on Caradale Street. I understand that in 2020, y'all did some traffic work looking at it, and I believe I heard a number 7,000 to 9,000 cars. Number one, you did it during COVID, I guess. You did it in 2020. which means there wasn't any school and half people weren't working. So maybe some better data might be good, because come on down there about 3 or 4 o'clock any weekday. Traffic will be backed up for a block on each end of it trying to pull out. Moms can't have their kids play in the yard. A lot of our people in our neighborhood are older. They can't go to the mailbox. My mother personally can't go. My parents bought that house in 1961. Mom couldn't go out to the mailbox for fear. I mean, it's on Caredale Street. Cars are going by 40 miles an hour. Again, we don't mind something going up, but let's just do the due diligence. Everyone around there that we talked to said the same thing. We do not want increased traffic. We don't want R2 to R6 yet. If that's something that we planned for, let's do it. Actually, Decatur did have a plan for that, but nothing really has happened on that. There was a big plan done, the comprehensive plan. The biggest part of it was to calm traffic. Specifically, Caredale Street was called a connector that was called out. The Caredale Street actually has become much more than a connector when this was done. There's too much traffic. People can't pull in and out of Caredale. You can't pull in and out of the side streets. We've been told that the new proposed property is you're gonna exit on the side street. Well, guess what? All the alleys on both sides are gonna get torn up, and everyone who exits onto that side street is gonna pull out on Caredale Street. It's already a mess. It's just too much. We need sidewalks. We need something to calm the traffic down. We need every one of those intersections, Spring Avenue on Caredale, down, of course, to Danville Road, and back up at Austinville Road. Same thing. They need to redo those intersections. What we also know from talking with the people who were working on the project at the old nursery was the next one slated to be done is about 3 blocks down, about 1307-ish Caredale Street, next to the 2 lots that are next to current Tommy's store there. They want to do that. I'll wrap it up. Also then, at the other end of Caredale Street, at Austinville, the big white house that's been there forever, the guy that bought that has already said that he believes he can have no problem at all getting that R2 to R6, if not commercial, because he can get it done down here. All we're saying is we don't mind prosperity. We don't mind Decatur being prosperous. Everybody wants the same thing. Let's just go about doing it the right way. Take some more time and research it.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Next on the list, I believe it's John Grimm, or Green, I'm sorry.
I defer my time to Mr. Wilson. He has some more.
Wait, so Herman, can you address giving time?
Yeah, the purpose is for everybody to be heard, and then those that.
Well, he can state it much more eloquently than I.
I understand, but the other people may want to speak, and once everybody's spoken, then you can do what you just asked
We don't
for.
have parliamentary rules.
You what?
No parliamentary rules then. Yeah.
Parliament? All right, so you don't want to speak, Mr. Green?
Oh, no, y'all mention mine,
I'm not saying he can't speak, Mr. President, I'm just saying
No,
that other.
he said he didn't want to.
Okay, that's
Why
fine.
can't he yield his time, though?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah, Mr. Marks just said that we would not allow yielding of time. If somebody wants to come back to the podium after everyone has had the opportunity to speek, they can do that if they have additional comments to make.
That's for this meeting only.
That's always the case.
Yeah.
We should not have allowed that when you guys did that. That's correct. We actually shouldn't have allowed any discussion in that meeting. All right, next I have, let's see. I believe that's everybody I have to speak on Caredale.
Well, if Mr. Wilson wants to speak.
If Mr. Wilson would like to come back with additional information, he can.
I'll take 3.
It needs to be new information.
Okay. I got plenty of information. Again, yes, we just want you to take a look at it. Kids can't get in off school bus. We got school buses that go up and down there and park. We go out, my next door neighbor kid, she's 12 years old. Either her family or my family has to come out literally and help her cross back on Caredale. Again, the traffic is the issue. It hadn't been addressed. I know they're saying, okay, it's 12, maybe 16 units, whatever. How many cars is that? The point of this is before we go down the road of R2 to R6, it's going to end up being, we're going to be back down here over the next, 2 or 3 months, again and again and again as we do this. Let's, not lose another street, not lose Caradale. We don't need it to turn into 6th Avenue. Caradale Street's been there for years and years. When my folks bought on it, it was a gravel road. It never was designed to handle this kind of traffic. And all we're doing is opening the dike for R6 more and more and more. Again, if some things are addressed to give us some relief on Caradale Street, that's fine. Let's talk about doing it the right way. Right now, it's just, it's being sped through, and we just don't need another one of those. If there's some data, we asked earlier about some data. Let's just get it and talk about it, okay? And but again, just to say, boom, here goes, lovely, wonderful townhomes. Great, that's wonderful the first year or two. I don't even know that people who might purchase those townhomes, if they have total right to do anything that they want to do with the number of people that live in that townhome. As far as I know, we don't have covenants in Decatur. So, again, business is great. We're just flying this thing through without taking a look at what's really going to happen to a main part of Decatur in Caradale Street. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Is there anyone else that I missed on the list to speak? All right. Seeing no one else here to speak on this issue, we'll consider the public hearing closed. Do we have a motion? So there'll be discussion after.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Apologies. So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMasters.
Second.
Second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion?
So I don't know really what direction to go on this one, and when I say it, I don't mean to. This is a really tough subject to cover because the amount of people that's being affected is quite more than I expected. But what I can say is there was some data that was requested. They said that there was a study done in 2020, and I believe there was one done in 2021 as well. We do not have the numbers for 2021 yet. They have not been released. But the 2020 numbers, what you said, were possibly at lower capacity because we were during COVID, yada, yada, yada. Out of curiosity, Mr. Terry, how long are these studies done? So like, how long is the period from when they start the study to the end of the study? Does it go for like months, weeks?
The traffic counts are collected by ALDOT yearly. You'll see them out there, the tube counters that you see across the roadway. Their typical procedure, as it's been described to me, is they place them for a week. They do it away from holidays. They make sure school is in session. They don't do it during the summer, so they try to account for the highest possible total when they lay those counters.
So with that being said, the numbers that I received were on an average between Caradale and Clara Avenue in that little area, there's 7,300 per day. There's 9,000 per day as we get closer to the Danville side of the road. Now, there was somebody that stated that that Caradale was not built for that, or it was not made for that. That is actually 50%, it's below 50% capacity actually. So Caradale was built for a lot more. I consider Caradale, I kind of turn to anatomy a little bit, I treat it like an artery. I go from where I live and I travel Caradale almost every day of the week, and I never have any problems through there. I lived at the intersection of Morgan Avenue and Caradale Street for 5 years of my life. Some of those years I drove, and I can tell you I never had any problems. Yes, there was congestion at times, and I can't stand congestion. I can't stand sitting at a red light. I hate sitting at a stop sign, but it is what it is. This apartment, these townhouses are going to bring approximately, 48? How many was it?
78.
78 cars, in my personal opinion, is not going to make that much big of a difference. That's like, for instance, us tearing down 2 houses on Morgan Avenue and us placing multiple townhouses in that area. It's going to do the same. Or us placing townhouses across Caradale going down on Beltline Road. It's going to create traffic in any area either way. We can't control where traffic's going to go. It's not possible. I mean, unless we go and stick police officers at every end of every street and say, hey, today this road is closed, you're not going down this road. We can't do that. Traffic is gonna be congested whether we like it or not. Our city continues to grow, and there's nothing we can do but help them. You know, let's try, and I understand you want more study done, and you want this done, and you want sidewalks done, and I know that you've probably been hearing for years they're gonna get done. And personally, I've never tasked a project of putting in sidewalk in an area. I would like to start talks or a conversation of this, and we can look into it a little further. But I don't see how this is going to affect traffic the way that people say it's going to. And then we also get the question of, is this going to affect crime in the area? Everybody knows that we are short-staffed right now in police officers. It is what it is. Everybody is short-staffed. It's not just us. Everybody is. Everybody is suffering. There is a high demand for law enforcement, and it's not being met right now. We're doing what we can with what we have. And I get calls and texts every single day about folks complaining of traffic in their neighborhoods and speakers thumping, and they complain about traffic congestion. And they say that the more that we continue to grow the city, the more that congestion we're going to have. Well, no growth, no nothing. No new restaurants, no new activities, no shopping stores. People want to leave here, they want to go away from it. We want to create a wonderful area for people to raise their families, take them to school, and I understand that. But we want to continue to grow it, and us putting off projects like this is not us continuing to grow it. We're continuing to put it backwards, and we're saying we're going to do more studies into this and studies into that, and it's not making any difference. It's going to be the same in the end no matter what.
But you're moving your progress further.
Everybody's had their opportunity. If we can just let Mr. Pepper
And
wrap
like I
up.
said, and I understand where you're coming from. I do. I promise you I do. But this is something we need to grow our city. Our city must grow. And even though this is only 78, 78's a lot compared to what we have been growing with. We haven't been growing with much. We're years behind in growth. And I'd like to see this council work together to gain growth in our city and work together with businesses and developers to grow with what we have. And we need to chase every opportunity while we have it. And with that being said, we need to study as well, and I understand that. But studies has been done. We're waiting on the 2021 numbers, and when we get them, they'll be released to the public. But there's no point in putting off something like this, because I guarantee you the 2021 numbers and the 2020 numbers have not changed drastically. If I'm not mistaken, the 2020 census said we grew how many? 2,000 citizens? Is that it? I mean, it's not a tremendous amount of growth. I would like to see a lot more than that.
All right.
But
thank you, Mr. Pepper. I'm sorry, Mr. Wilson. Mr. West also did mention, it just came to mind, that he had concerns about speed and things on Carradale, people speeding, and that is something we can help with as far as getting with our police department to make sure that there's folks out there to check on that. So, any other discussion?
Yeah, I'll say this. I've gotten more calls on this than I anticipated getting. But the thing is that I think the consensus was that we just not rush into this, that we take the time and do what I was asked to do, was a comprehensive study. There might have already been one. A look at how we can do sidewalks, and look at how we can address the issues that the citizens have right now. And I don't think that's an unreasonable request. So I would simply just ask that we do a moratorium, or just hold off on this for, I was asked 90 days, and for me that's not unreasonable. Just to kind of get an analysis of what we're doing. So at this particular point, I won't support this tonight, but I just express what was expressed to me.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Ladner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
Ordinance 224498 is approved with a vote of 4-1. Next is ordinance 224499, approved pre-zoning request 138422 Villarreal property to pre-zone 14.57 acres to R4 multifamily residential district located at approximately 2900 Upper River Road. Public hearing set March 7th, 2022. Lee.
Yes, this is pre-zoning 138422. The applicant is Villarreal Properties LLC, and the request is to pre-zone 14.57 acres to R4 multifamily residential, and this was recommended unanimously for approval by the Planning Commission.
All right, this is a public hearing. We'll go ahead and open that now, and like on the last one, I'll just go down the list with folks that have signed in to speak on this item. First, I have Leslie Richard.
My name is Leslie Richard. I live at 3301 Anthony Circle, Southeast Decatur. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Decatur. I'm adamantly opposed to the ordinance number 224499, the Villarreal Apartments. We're not against progress or growth for the city. We're for progress and growth in the responsible manner at the appropriate location. The complex Mr. Villarreal is wanting to develop has been described as high-end with granite countertops, 125 to 175 units. According to the article in the Daily, the number is now 175 units with 400 parking spots. Let's talk about high-end apartments. They have on-site restaurants. They have retail space. Most now have a grocery store on the first floor. They have child care, on-site pet care, clubhouse, lounge seating, and high-definition television sets, and controlled access parking, electric car charging stations, resort-style pool and courtyard, multi-purpose game room, 24-hour state-of-the-art fitness center with techno gym equipment with professional trainers, yoga rooms and scheduled classes, sun tanning salons, private meeting rooms, business rooms, conference rooms, indoor mailboxes and mobile packages, service alerts, community lounges with coffee stations, oversized balconies, keyless electronic unit entries, living green walls, and many others. These are not high-end apartments. These are just apartments, and they will be overlooking someone's backyard. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Richard. Next on my list, I have Tim Hudson.
Mayor, Councilman, my name is Tim Hudson. I live at 2500 Circle Drive in Decatur. It's rolling hills. It's adjacent to Hickory Hills and Refuge Hideaway. I've been living there since 73, so that's 49 years I've been in that area. So I'm intimately familiar with the roads and the property there. And first, I'm just a little concerned at the way this whole narrative's been framed. It's like if I'm against these apartments being built on this particular site here, that I'm against making Decatur better, progress, growth, young urban professionals locating in our city, and I'm not against any of those things. I want to see progress and growth for our young professionals to have a place to live and start their careers. I'm not opposed to apartments. If there's a demand for apartments in Decatur and they would be profitable, then I'm sure they will be built and continue to be built until there's no longer a demand. But I am strongly against apartments being built on the Upper River Road site for several reasons. But one is they'll be squeezed between an existing church on one side, and I can't imagine the negative impact it will have on that church's congregation and worship. On the other side, we have dozens of homes with spacious lots whose backyard will be 30 to 40 feet from these apartments. I mean, 30 to 40 feet. That's from me to Councilman Pike down there. 2 stories high, apartments will be looking down into people's backyards. You can see every inch. There's no privacy fence I could think of that you could put up, no buffer, whatever. Because look in your back window and everything. I can't think of anyone in this council who would want apartments put 30 feet from their backyard, 2 stories looking down into it. But I think there's a way that every party here with a little compromise can win, though. If Mr. Villarreal could sell his property for a profit or build other building dwellings other than R4 and also make a profit, and I hope he does, this will be a win for Mr. Villarreal. This would also grow the area and bring more people housing and be a win for the city. But lastly, by not putting apartments 30 feet from people's backyard in a church would be a win for our neighborhood. With just a little compromise here, I think that we could all win. And that's why I asked you to vote against this ordinance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hudson. Randy Hill is next on the list.
Hello, my name is Randy Hill. I live at 2804 Hunterwood Drive in Decatur, Alabama. Can I put these to the council? It's just copies of the Decatur, one Decatur plan. I'd like to ask a question. First of all, am I correct in this is the one Decatur plan, all of it together with the zoning, the comprehensive portion of it? There's 3 versions on the web, and they're all listed under one Decatur plan. Does anybody know?
What is the question?
Are they all part of the same plan?
All I see is the headers. I would think so, but I can't. It's just the 3 headers.
Okay.
So.
Are we still paying this company to as a consultant, the Clarion Next?
Kyle, do you know?
Off the top of my head, no.
Okay.
You submitted a request for this question, and I called you back and left a voicemail, but didn't hear back from you.
Yeah, I was a little concerned about it was my understanding that the original fee for it was like $130,000. Am I correct?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. Well, at any rate, I'd like to find, if you could find me the answers there, I'd certainly appreciate it.
Lee, did you have an answer?
I'm not sure what the cost of the original plan was, no.
The cost of the original plan was around $225, wasn't it?
In 2016, 17.
Yeah, there was $250,000. If I'm not mistaken, the original price, I seen the contract at one time, it was $130,000. And as I understood it, the contract was to extend each year. This is 2022, and evidently, well, I'm not even clear on whether all of it's been approved, part of it's been approved, or what. The last copy of it there says public review draft, so I'm imagining it's supposed to be for us to look at. My questions about it is, in the second one, the original part of the zoning portion of it, part of modules 4 through 8, I believe, has a lot of really good things in there, and I think this was put together by a community that was trying to work together on solving a lot of these issues. There's some really good things in there about neighborhood meetings, pre-neighborhood meetings with the developer, neighborhood meetings after zoning. All of it in the rewrite has been taken out, and I'd like to know why. They were good ideas then, and I assume that they're good ideas now. My neighbors feel like they are, because it feels like it gives us some protections against things like this that's going on now with the rezoning and such. Back to the traffic thing that the Caradell group was talking about. I brought this issue up,
You can finish, Randy. We had some questions. Give them another minute, and you can come back at the end. Finish.
All right, thank you, I appreciate it. The traffic studies, I asked, at the last meeting, I asked Kent Lawrence where the what year was the data gathered for it. He told me 2020. I went home and started looking for where that information come. I called the planning commission, the planning commission twice. Was told that the report wasn't completed yet. Eventually, I laid my hand on a copy of the MPO 2020 report that was done for SR 67 and Upper River Road. It was really, really different than what was portrayed during the planning commission meeting. So I had a lot of questions. The data, just as an example, the data for the crash data in there was collected back in the years 2013 to 2016. That is it's nowhere near what our traffic is today with the addition of all the other, anyway, I appreciate the extra time. Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Next on my list is Emily Norris.
I was yielding my time to Randy.
come back, when we let everybody have their shot, we'll come back after that.
Fair enough, thank you.
Sue Coffee.
I would like to feel mine.
Greg Blythe.
My name's Greg Blythe. I live at 3207 Old River Road. My property is in, I'm not in the city, I'm in the county. My property's in, would be east of Mr. Villarreal's property. So I'm real familiar with the property. I want to thank the council and the mayor for doing a good job of recruiting businesses to Decatur. I think you're doing a great job. My wife and I have lived in Decatur for a long time. And I appreciate all the councilmen. Most all of you have been to see me and talked to me about the flooding problem that we have. This land is probably in the floodplain. I'm sure it's in the floodplain, but it's probably a wetland. And to deal with that, you have to go to the Corps of Engineers. Corps of Engineers told me that Mr. Villarreal has to submit a plan before he can build. But if you zone this R4, can he sell this land to somebody else and they build apartments?
If he sold the land, yeah.
If
it's zoned that way.
So it can be sold, and then any kind of apartment that meets the city ordinance could be built there, right?
If it was annexed in, yes.
So basically what you're saying is that if he can't build those high-end apartments that he wants to build, he could sell it to another developer, and he could build low-end apartments? Or maybe public housing? Would that be R4?
If he sold the property,
Okay.
if it was in the zone and annexed in, if it, as long as it met the zoning criteria.
Okay, so my question is, would it be practical to pre-zone it if you don't know all the requirements that, like the wetlands and all that, the engineering hadn't been done? Is it following the Decatur 1 plan to rezone something, pre-zone something?
Yeah, we do practice pre-zoning and.
So does Decatur 1 says that land would be not R4 in the Decatur 1 plan, it would be agricultural or single family homes. Is that correct?
Lee, can you speak to that?
Is this my 3 minutes?
No, we can go after Greg if you want to finish up, that's fine. If you want to finish, we'll get the answer.
No, I'd like to know.
Okay, go ahead.
It's, the future land use is mixed neighborhood, a range of uses of residential, from low density to high density.
No, is it in the plan that y'all submitted, that the Decatur 1, does it say high density, R4?
Mixed neighborhood is the
Mixed
term
neighborhood.
that is used, and that anything from apartments to any range of residential uses.
I would ask the council to go back and look at the way that's written. I don't think it does say that, but if that's what he says. But when I saw it on the zoning map, it doesn't say R4, it says living unit.
What it currently is.
Okay, the other thing is there any other apartment or R4 zoning in that area?
I don't know.
No. But any of the houses in that neighborhood, I'm sorry.
You go ahead, finish up.
Any of those houses in that neighborhood, are they multifamily or?
Multifamily, no, they're.
So if you rezone this, you'll be changing the zoning from what exists there now to a new zoning, is that correct?
It'd be residential, but yes, it'd be a different type.
It won't be.
In fact, one neighborhood across the street, I believe, has at least 2 types of zoning just in it.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Greg. Next is Steve Abbott.
Steve Abbott, 2823 Hunterwood Drive. Before I start, I got a few things that I need to get corrected. And maybe another thing is I want to call time out and ask for clarification from the planning department on some things. So anyway, correction for the Decatur Daily. I've been misquoted so many times by the Daily in my past. This is, they said Sunday's paper, this is R6, it's R4. Okay, that's one thing. The next thing, I'd like to take credit for some of the comments, but Mr. Tubbs is more articulate than I am, and some of them were his, so those things are here. His title was in the Planning Commission. My title was Public Works Director. I worked for 3 cities in 27 years, 6 mayors, Decatur, Huntsville, and Madison. So there's nothing you're doing tonight that I haven't seen multiple times. And believe me, this one takes the cake. Having said that, if you're familiar with Somerville Road, Country Club intersection, and Flint, behind the old Sears building, I'm going to use that as an example on the Highway 67 road intersection with Upper River. They have, it's 2-lane roads and a skewed angle with lights to the intersection going to the right if you're coming from Decatur towards the area, and also it's a skewed angle from the other side. That same example could be used and duplicated on Highway 67 and Upper River Road. You've got 4 lanes with 4 flashing yellow lights. You've got a red flashing light on Upper River Road. I don't know, but it seems like to me we've wasted a lot of time with studies and all these things, and we're projecting now I don't know how many months out, 18 months out to even get the building done, and you talk about combination. Those things are the infrastructure in place. I'm sure if the mayor consulted with the state ALDOT, they might grant those things on a temporary order until this construction of this new intersection be done. That to me is a safety issue that nobody is paying much attention to. I don't know if you've ever made left-hand turns. Heaven help you, you better have your living will ready when you do. Okay. I think the other thing about the apartments is, I'm going from a different angle from the last time. Mr. McNasters and y'all been talking about in the paper, I didn't get the article, but y'all mentioned about parks for the areas. Okay, I think there's a way to redeem yourselves and the rest of council here. If we can pay $37,000 an acre for ball fields, surely to goodness you can buy 14 acres for $37,000 and you can get a park. You see my point? A walking trail, nature trail, whatever, I don't care. But you're gonna have people impacted like this for the rest of their lives. I'm 73, 74 years old. It's not gonna impact me many more years, I don't think. The good Lord willing, I've lived my 70. But what I think has happened here.
Mr. Abbott, if you can just wrap up one more point.
You gonna wrap it up?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me ask my question, okay? Then this is the question, if you can call time out. Planning Department, Mr. Terry, on the Sunday paper of March 27th, there was an article here about the burning tree developments. Terry said the city has to live with the Indian Hills Road issues, calling it just a product of the time. He said they're not allowing any cul-de-sacs or dead ends in new subdivision plans. Our goal is to create connections within other phases. So what you're saying to me is this correct?
Hey, Mr., if you can address us instead of a
okay,
city
is cul-de-sacs being eliminated?
Okay. We'll let him answer if we're wrapped up. He'll have to come to the podium to answer. Mr. Abbott.
Steve. Simple question I'm asking about.
Mr. Abbott, he's trying to come to the podium. Do you want to address
so I can come back
quote?
To answer his question?
He's going to answer.
I believe what he's mentioning was a discussion that was had regarding the Foxwood subdivision.
Would you speak up? I can't hear you.
What was, I'm sorry, I'm a little soft-spoken. I'm addressing the council.
Go ahead.
So it was a discussion that was had about the Foxwood subdivision and what was being added, the new phase of that one. The general path forward with the planning department and what we're trying to do is increase connections and limit cul-de-sacs. Yes, that is a goal. not eliminate them. They are a necessary design element in subdivisions, but the comment was in reference to making connections out and providing for future growth.
Thanks,
Could you
Lee.
ask them to define a cul-de-sac for the people?
You want to define cul-de-sac?
I mean, it's a
I'm asking
turnaround.
you
What
for-
everyone thinks a cul-de-sac
I
is.
mean, it's basically a dead-end street with a bulb turnaround as a cul-de-sac.
Thank you, Lee. Next on the list, we have Jeremy
Any
Nails.
Hey, Mayor and Council, I'm Jeremy Nails, 1506 Blackhole Lane. But I am coming here with as the president of the Economic Development Association today. We work with attracting new and expanding industries to this area, which in turn bring in new employees to work in our community. We've struggled with a lack of apartment availability for many years. Companies frequently move in new employees and managers, especially managers, from other locations for either a temporary part of time or a long-term stay. A lot of those times, one spouse will stay back while one spouse comes here to work, while they sell the house and then look to move here. A question that always comes up is the availability of rental houses and apartments that are attractive and also are available readily. We have little to no existing rental houses or apartments at the moment, and this leads to those new employees looking at neighboring areas such as Madison and Huntsville to live. I actually had a project in a couple of weeks ago. They asked me to take them to some 2-bedroom apartments in our community. I found one in the community, and they were not impressed with it. These individuals that move to other locations become familiar and comfortable in those neighboring areas. If they stay for a period of long time, they could ultimately purchase a property there instead of here. In addition, our local facilities bring in 40 to 50 summer college interns every summer that we connect them with each other at a meet and greet here in Decatur. Those interns are staying in Madison. They cannot find enough apartments in our area for those interns to live in temporarily for the summer. So this in turn puts us at a disadvantage once those students graduate and are offered a job at one of our local facilities, at one of our high-paying companies. We lose a quality young professional, in my opinion. So from a workforce livability and vitality standpoint, I support the construction of a high-end apartment complex that will be attractive to many employees, especially management and the interns that we have coming in throughout the year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeremy. Next on my list is Joe Emrod Dillingham.
I'm Joanne Dillingham. I live at 3130 Hickory Hill Road Southeast in Decatur. I've spoken before you all in the past, and I'm not going to spend my time, my 3 minutes, going over again what you've heard before. I did bring to your attention that the property Mr. Villarreal is proposing to put apartments on is in a floodplain, it's wetlands, it has endangered species of 7 different types, including bats and other things, and plants. This is known going in. What I'm finding really interesting is the speed at which this is coming about. I understand it is a pre-zoning situation, okay? I find it really interesting too that 3 of our councilmen, Mr. Pike, Hunter, and Carlton, all of your districts are having issues with rezoning, with traffic, with infrastructure issues, and yet 2 of the 3 of you are apparently rubber stamping and pushing these through when your constituents are asking, slow the roll, slow it down. You're not doing it. I want Decatur to grow. This is my forever home. I want it to grow in a progressive fashion that is good for the community. As you said a little bit ago, I've lived my 70 years, okay? The decisions you make aren't going to affect me, but they're going to affect your kids. And if you have kids, they're going to affect your kids. They're going to affect your kids, and who knows, maybe one day they'll affect yours. I've been told, gosh, this wasn't on my watch. This was done before me. Well, the way you vote now is on your heads. Going forward, you own it. You own it. You know that traffic is an issue. You don't have the infrastructure in. We do not have schools. We do not have fire departments. We've got 28 fire departments in Morgan County. Did you know that we only have 2 that are professional full-time? The other 26 are volunteer, and they don't have enough volunteers. Our police department isn't fully staffed. And you want to bring in, if Mr. Villarreal gets his way, he gets between 125 and 175 units with 400 parking spaces. Talk about density. Are you serious? Okay. I was asked last night, what is it I want in presenting here? Number one, I want you to vote no. You and I had conversations, and you said, I'm caught. I don't know which way to go. I don't know if I should go with my constituency or go with the city. Yeah, it's a rough spot to be in. I voted you in here. You are my voice. And I'm telling you, no. I hope you hear me. You're going to do whatever you're going to do. Okay? You represent me. So when you make your decision, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Dillingham. I've got Abe Mayo. Oh, there you are.
I'd like to yield my time to Mr. Stokes.
To who?
Mr. Stokes.
Tracy. Oh, Tracy. Okay. Tracy's on the list, so I don't know if you want to go ahead and speak, that's fine.
Thank you. I come before you this evening to oppose this case and discuss the things that just aren't so. The subject land that we're looking at falls between Hickory Hills, and it falls between the new subdivision of Morris subdivision, and I know this council had very little to do with, but the improvements that were promised because of the Morris subdivision has not been on this council's agenda before now. Now it is. Okay, that's good. We got one street light at the corner of Upper River Road, one street light. That's what we got, and I'm glad of that. That's progress. We have BOZA, that is the Board of Zoning Adjustments, that would not allow a piece of county-owned, county-zoned, or county property to have anything in it when it's within the police jurisdiction, fire jurisdiction of the city of Decatur. In other words, you can't put a trailer park there. You can't put a pig farm. This is all misrepresentation. You're trying to get the drop on us with this thing, and I'm telling you, we're wise to it, okay? The pre-zoning, too, is another issue. The council in this case put the cart before the horse. You know it. We've heard here tonight that you know it. Past agendas are for annexation of property and then rezoning. It's not for pre-zoning. Yeah, it's legal. Sure, you can do it. But why would you do it when you're putting an R4 in the middle of an R2 and an R3? Economics, to service the debt of, let's say, $15 million you had to borrow. I'm going to be a bank geek here a minute and tell you that on 30 years, it's going to take, with a favorable interest rate that you might get if you get an SBA guaranteed loan, it's going to take $854,000 a year to service that debt, okay? That means you got to rent 64 apartments at $1,300 a month in a market that averaged $700 a month, okay? Now, let's be real, guys. Yeah, I'm animated. I'm tired of fighting this battle. This is my third appearance. I went up in front of Mr. Lawrence's committee, and we got voted down unanimously. Yes. I didn't get heard, I don't think. But I'm telling you, the economics, the common sense does not add up. I understand and I sympathize with you guys from this point. you're making a decision that would result in the targeting of our area for this type of misfit development, because that's what it is, in the middle of two nice, established, old residential subdivisions. Now think about that. In my opinion, you should in fact listen to 60 of us rather than 60,000. This is wrong. It does not help the city of Decatur grow. If you want to come out there and develop what's there, then yes, it helps. I'm nearly done. It helps the city of Decatur grow. This is not growth. What you're going to end up with is apartments that will be leased with cash flow as the primary goal. They don't care about the character of the neighborhood we live in. Cash flow will be king.
Thank you, Mr. Tubbs. Next on the list is James Bloom. James Bloom. Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
I'll give them a change of pace. Thank you for hearing me. I would complain a little. For an old disabled veteran, I can't hear crap back there. I mean, it's pretty bad. My name is Jim Bloom. I live at 2726 Hunterwood Drive, Southeast. I've lived there for 31 years, seen growth and coming and goings in Decatur a lot. When I watch this, I don't begrudge the guy selling his property. I've always looked at that property as a funny piece of property. It isn't very big, and all I can see is to change. What it looks like to me is that to get you guys to rezone this and attach it to Decatur, it's like a Trojan horse. They're just trying to get it rezoned, and the thought of having a high-end apartment, if you want to see high-end apartments, you go up to where my son and daughter live up in Westminster, Colorado, you can see high-end apartments. The lady stated that, where you have a lot of amenities. There you wouldn't even have enough room for even a trail around it. 400 parking spaces is going to cover up most of your land. And the other thing is, if you're going to follow our federal government, whether you like them or not, they're there. One person mentioned electric cars. My background's electrical engineering. Where is the power going to come for all these apartments? Is it going to come from the substation between Rolling Hills and Hickory Hills? You're talking thousands of kilowatts to run that, plus within a few years, if you're going to want high-end people, in quote high-end, they're going to be driving Teslas and electric cars following and those, believe it or not, they take a 50-amp charging station. And if you go, are you going to put in 400 50-amp charging stations? I haven't heard anybody talk about how you're going to charge all these electric cars in the neighborhood there and running power. Where are you going to, that's why my biggest question is, where are you going to get the power? They also, Mr. Blythe said about the drainage. I've seen some really heavy rainstorms, and that whole area above Abe's place, I'm further north, so water runs downhill, but there's a lot of water running through there. They used to come over Upper River Road until they changed out the culvert about 20 years ago, or 15, 20. And now you're adding with a new, but I still say, I think what you're voting on is a Trojan horse.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom. Bob Caspers.
Bob Caspers, 2707 Hunterwood Drive, Decatur. My daughter lives at 2709. My wife's family built that house in the mid-60s. Our house was built in the early 70s. We've lived in it now for 18 years. Okay, so we have some investment in Hickory Hills. I oppose this development. You've heard enough reasons, okay? You've heard enough reasons. Barring a little of Tracy's passion, I want to ask for some things. One, I want protection for the residents in Hickory Hills and Rolling Hills and the other areas around, to include the Morris subdivision. I want protection that you're going to do the traffic improvements, not planning, not a 30% plan. Plans, 24 years in the military and I'm a planner, okay? Plans aren't worth crap. Execution counts. You have a red light that needs to be put in tomorrow. I realize that's unrealistic, by the way, but it needs to be put in the immediate future on one of the most dangerous road intersections in this part of Alabama. Alabama's averages say it's one of the most dangerous intersections in Alabama.
Yes.
I really think you should table this thing until Mr. Villaruel has an engineering study done to see what it's going to cost him. I'm worried about your pocketbook, Andy, by the way. To see what it's going to cost him to develop this thing, and if he can actually amortize it profitably. If he invests that much money, I hope to gosh you make something out of it. Environmental and wetlands, if it's federal wetlands, you may or may not get permission to build this. Don't zone it until we know.
Yes.
Don't pre-zone it, don't zone it, don't do anything until we know it can be done. And once we've cleared those hurdles, get us some kind of guarantee that he's going to produce what he says he's going to produce.
Yes. Yes.
Now, I will make, going back to the flooding issue, I will make one more statement. We've got 13, 14 acres. We got 400 and some odd parking spaces, and the ground that's going to be taken up by the buildings. Where the hell is that water going? It's going to only exacerbate the existing flood situation there. It's got to be drained. The last thing I want to guarantee is that this costs the city not one penny. And the other thing I would like to do is thank Mr. McMaster for calling his constituent a bunch of NIMBYs.
All right, thank you, Mr. Caspers. Next, I have Randy Smith.
I'm Randy Smith. My wife Sheila and I live at 2820 Hunterwood Drive. And we moved here 4 years ago to be close to our grandchildren. We looked for 2 years to find the right house. We found it on Hunterwood Drive, and for the last 2 years we've put a significant amount of time, effort, and money into fixing up the inside and fixing up the outside of that house. The good thing about being this far down on the list is most everything's been said, okay? And I'm not going to go there. But I do want to just talk about one issue. In the Nextdoor app, one of the comments made was reference to us being called NIMBYs. And of course, that's the acronym for Not in My Backyard. Well, I guess I'm here to stand up and claim it. Okay? I want to claim that title, Not in My Backyard. I'm one of 8 houses that are on the east side of Hunterwood, which means that my back property line is the current city limits line. And obviously, if this rezoning is done, it will be the same as the property that's being proposed to be developed, okay? Most of our lots are about a half acre. And it's about 60 feet from the back of my house to my back property line. And even with a 30 or 35 foot offset, you're talking about 90 feet from the back of my house is where these apartments will be, 2 stories high. And so I'm just going to claim it, and I would think that if any of you were in a similar situation, if it was your house, you might be an NIMBY too. Thank you.
I'd like to address something real quick. So I'm on Facebook. Every week I do posts. I recap meetings. January 26th, I did a post. Long before we knew about this development, and I touched on several different things, and I used the term NIMBY. I didn't call a single person in this room.
I didn't claim that.
I know. Mr. Hill has, and Mr. Casper has, and if you, I can print it off for you and show it to you. I didn't call anybody a NIMBY. Not one person. It's right there in black and white. So,
thanks,
thank
Carlton. Jamie Reeves is next on my list.
Oh, it's a term. You know. Well, yeah. We're watching.
Jamie Reeves. I live at 2503 Lakeview Drive in Decatur. And first of all, I would like to say legacy thinking is just a big core of my life in general. And that definition goes to say with you guys is what others will later say of your work, your leadership, and your achievements as a team is phenomenal. Regardless of the atmosphere in the room today, what you have accomplished during this term, we haven't seen in a very long time. You know, I could address, traffic, I could address drainage, I could address location. All that is essentially irrelevant because there's no perfect place to build an apartment in our city. No one wants it in their backyard. No one wants it on 6th Avenue. No one wants it on the Beltline because it's going to cause more traffic. There's going to be an issue regardless of whether we put it anywhere. You know, in order for us to be progressive thinking, we're really just going to have to put facts over feelings. And as I said, you know, that's not something any of us envy you in. And the unpopular truth is that we have an antiquated population. At this point, we're not concerned about growth. It's irrelevant. We're concerned about sustainability. We need to sustain the population that we have. We're not attracting young professionals. That's easy to see. We have nowhere for them to go. There's no apartments. There's no rental properties that anyone would want that's even available at this point. We just don't have it. Our market is not allowing for first-time home buyers. Our market is not allowing for anything that a young professional would consider available to them. You know, these guys have said it, I've said it. Our people are moving to Madison. They're moving to Huntsville. They're moving to Athens. They're moving outside of our city and working in our city, and we're losing every bit of their money. You know, their money that they spend shopping, their groceries, their entertainment, everything is going to other cities. And I know this is an unpopular opinion, and I completely understand it. We've been compared to Franklin, Tennessee, Green, Texas. Apartments are being thrown up in the midst of neighborhoods. Multi-use developments are being thrown up in the midst, and people want it. They want to be in the mix, because when they put in roots in their apartments, then they're going to put in roots in those neighborhoods. They're going to love the area, and they're going to stay. So, you know, I'm 100% in support of you guys.
Thanks, Jamie. Next on my list is Crystal Brown.
Crystal Brown, 1904 Weatherly Circle,
Hey
Southwest.
guys, hey, can we keep some order? We're gonna have to take a we don't wanna do that. Let's listen to the speaker. Excuse me?
They just can't hear her, that's what they're saying.
No, there was comments made towards Ms. Reeves, yeah. Go ahead, Ms.
Can't hear
Brown.
me. Crystal Brown, Decatur, 1904 Weatherly Circle, Southwest Decatur. I'm standing representing the Decatur Morgan County Chamber of Commerce as president and CEO. We appreciate you all and the work that you all have to do, and I don't want to be redundant. Jamie and Jeremy have spoke to our needs very well. We have a residential development task team that has been working over the last couple of years to help with the implementation of the One Decatur Comprehensive Plan. That's very important. The ability to attract quality developers to the city has been at the forefront of our efforts. We were told early on that we would have to have developers from within that believed in our city because we had not experienced growth over the last few years, several years. Certainly multifamily growth, more than 20 plus years, anything significant. So we have that before us. Mr. Villarreal has stepped up, and we've talked with him. Our chairman, Jack Fight of the Residential Development Task Team, was not here this evening. He had to be out of town, but he has had numerous conversations with him, and we feel good about his efforts. And I would just say to what Jamie, add to what Jamie has said about our aging population. 39 plus years old is the average age of our population. That doesn't seem very old, but it is. A community that is growing and thriving, the average age is 34, somewhere in that neighborhood, 33 to 34. So 39 is pretty old when you're talking about a community that is growing. This is an opportunity for us to capture those that are looking to stay here in Decatur, those that are looking to move to Decatur. So we are in favor of this project as a community, as a residential development task team, and we would appreciate you being in favor of it as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Crystal. Next on the list is Robert Covey. Cooey, I'm sorry, Cooey.
So I'll start my time too. Look, I'm going to start out. I do appreciate y'all letting us come. Do I believe that y'all don't already have your minds made up? Personally, I have people work for me. I have interns that work for me. I'm an engineer, and I work with contracts and I work with budgets. I believe you probably already got your mind made up. That's just me. And it's because that's what I deal with every day. We've already determined if you're a senior citizen, if you're older, if you're above 30 years old, you're not important. That's been determined today. That's been stated today. We vote. We have families. I got a 16-year-old and an 11-year-old. I'm over 30. You know, our founding fathers used to say, when they started speaking or giving an oration, anything, something they used to say, about 20% of what they talked about related to examples out of the Bible. One of the things that maybe that we would appreciate, I would appreciate, my family would appreciate, because I've been there for 21 years, 3318 Indian Hills Road, is it says that whatsoever you would that men do to you, do you even so to them. Guys, there's not a single one of you that wants an apartment complex set up looking over in y'all's backyards. Now, there's not, and you know that. That's an absolute fact. I've had my kids, I've had my 11-year-old when he was younger, after Publix came in, who we got promised a lot of things. There's not an 80% blockage between us and our side of the road. There is no speed breaks. Mike's youngest son, has never been hit because the cars speed up and down through there. There's been wrecks right there. There's been tankers turned over right there on the corner of Indian Hills Road and Upper River Road.
Good luck
If
there's a wreck.
You can address that.
They blocked the roads there. It's a lady that goes to our church got hit recently in a van, totaled her van out, blocked the roads up for hours.
It is dangerous there. There's not a quality study been done. I mean, I do engineering studies. I'm a safety. I went from being an electrical engineer to doing safety because most people don't give 2 cents about safety. They care about the bugs, but they don't care about safety. And so I became a safety engineer. I've been a safety engineer for now and airworthiness for nearly 21 years. Guys, I'd really like to ask y'all to look at the study, but I'm going to tell you, I'm going to go back to one thing. Matthew chapter 7 says, see, I want to make sure I stay up my time too. Matthew 7 says, whatsoever you would that men do to you, do you even so to them? Man, that Jesus is a lot stronger than I am. His word's a lot stronger than I am. I'd really like to ask y'all to not have your minds made up, but open it back up to the realization you're hurting families.
Thanks, Mr. Curry. All right, I have Kelly Powers on the list.
Council, thank you. Kelly Powers, 101 Jackson Way, Decatur, Alabama. I'm coming tonight as the president of Decatur Morgan Hospital. I just wanted to share some facts with you on what I've lived here about 19 months now. I moved here from Huntsville, where I lived in a high-end apartment, downtown Huntsville in Artisan, for over a year while I was looking for a house. We have recruited 25 doctors in the last 2 years. Of those 25 physicians, 10 are emergency room physicians, and the other 15 are various specialties. Of the 10 ER doctors, 9 of them I personally recruited myself. Of the 9, 3 live here, and the other 6 chose to live in Madison or Huntsville. I don't like that because I prefer that the doctors live here in the community, be part of the community, go to church, know everybody. The same thing with the other 15. 3 of the 15 are not here yet, but they're having a real hard time finding a house or somewhere temporary to live. So they're probably going to end up in an apartment in Madison or a house in Madison due to the call. We have a 30-minute call restriction. So if you take call at the Huntsville, you have to be able to get a 30-minute call is written in their contract. So you have to live within 30 minutes when you're on call. And the edge of Madison, they can live as far as County Line Road and still make it here with the current traffic. But as the traffic continues to grow, I am concerned that we'll have doctors not be able to make it in times of emergency. We also, a lot of people don't know it, but we have medical students here, the ACOM College of Medicine out of Dothan. I have 2 classes, either 12 or 13 students per year. Most of those students live in Madison. I have 3 that currently live out of the 20 that we have, 22 right now, live here in Decatur, and they chose to live together. The place that they rent, they've had a lot of issues with security and different things like that. So most of them live over there. I prefer that they live here. I want to recruit them back to be doctors. So again, just trying to look out for that. I also have professionals and other people. It is very difficult, as y'all know, to find a really nice high-end place for people to live, especially if they want to build something later on. So I'm just here on behalf of the hospital to let you know what my struggles are in getting physicians to come to our community. So
Thanks,
thank
Kelly.
you.
All right, that's everybody I had on the list. Mr. Hill, if you want to add.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Again, my name's Randy Hill, live 2804 Hunterwood Drive. I'm sorry, may I have your name again?
Crystal Brown.
Hey, just address us if there's something we can ask.
All right,
for
since you didn't know the answers as to whether or not this was part of the One Decatur plan, she seemed to know about it.
Well, we can get that information to Lee.
Okay.
Probably would know maybe
All right,
more.
there's our next copy then.
Yeah.
Thank you. As to the need for apartments, I have no doubt that this is a fair statement. The advocates for Mr. Real seem to insinuate that we're not thrilled or excited about wanting an apartment complex 30 feet from our backyard. And we don't want our city to grow, and don't care or love our city. This argument's driving me nuts. It couldn't be further from the truth. My wife's family has lived in this town for more than 60 years. Her grandfather was a doctor that worked at the first hospital.
Her dad was a NASA aeronautical engineer that worked on the moon buggy. So we care about this city. We moved out to Hunterwood Drive. We lived on Gordon Drive for a long time. Delano Park over there started going down. The city came in and fixed it up, did a really good job. Ambulance noise going back and forth and stuff. We chose to move out to the outskirts of town because it was quiet and peaceful. I can't tell you, well, I think everybody's already tried to explain to you what these apartments are going to probably bring to our neighborhood. Talking about the rental cost, I just pulled it up today. Rent Cafe. It says the average apartment here in Decatur rents $726 a month. 3% rent for less than $500. $501 to $700, 38%. $701 to $1,000, 58%. $1,000 to $1,500, 1%. I can't imagine people wanting to pay that kind of money to be out in the middle of a field, up against agricultural property, and up against a sleepy little neighborhood.
Sir, a while ago, I said 225,000. I misunderstood, I think, your question. That's what we paid for the One Decatur Long-Range Comprehensive Plan. The zoning rewrite is a component of the One Decatur plan, so it's underneath that plan. And then there is currently a review being done of some of the rewrite ordinances.
Do you know? Well, maybe you probably.
And you can go to the One Decatur, just like you have
website.
and you
I have all 3 volumes. Yes.
Find all that information there.
I have all 3 volumes, and what I was curious about, I'm surprised that all of you don't know about it. I thought all of you had been talking about this plan for a long time. But what really surprises me and bothers me is that they're in the second cover there, that part of it, there's a lot of good protections talking about protecting the character of neighborhoods. The setback for agricultural land was 50 to 75 feet. And those neighborhood meetings are really important. I spoke with Jamie Green from the Next.
Planning Next?
Yes, that come up or helped with this. And her statement says, openness is, crap. I'm terribly sorry. I get real nervous when I stand up here and
No,
talk.
just if you can wrap up the last
Okay, all right, good enough. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Randy. Yes, Mr. Abbott, if you have something new.
Get to finish the question.
If you have something new to add, yes, sir, you can speak again. Just, Mr. If you have a question, if you can address me, I'll try to ask that for you, but I'm supposed to address the council, so.
Okay, I'm used to third-party questions, okay? I've got a recommendation. This will probably be my last time to come to council meeting, but I would recommend you get a new sound system. I can't hear nothing.
I don't disagree.
And I doubt if these people in the back can hear a whole lot.
Sure.
The question was about cul-de-sacs being deleted in the subdivision regulations, okay? The problem that I understand, he said that they have no longer accepting cul-de-sacs. Is that correct?
I'll let him come address us with that question if that's your question.
But I'm not, are you gonna let me continue, or is it?
If you want to finish up with the 3 minutes, then I'll ask him to address that question, so.
Okay, we talk about, I don't know, I read somewhere where we're not competing, we're not on the same playing field as Huntsville and Madison. I can tell you right now, what defines Huntsville and Madison for having worked there is the leadership. The first thing that you need to understand is the leadership leads, he doesn't follow. I don't think, I told Mr. Jackson the last planning commission meeting when all this thing started that he and I never, but we never, I would say never, we had some disagreements, but he at least listened to me and he at least backed his constituents. That's all I'm asking. To be a leader, you're gonna have to be thinking individually, not being following somebody else's recommendation. I think very strongly that the future of Decatur is basically related to leadership. It's not related to what I'm saying or these people say, but it's also listening to the people. This subdivision, or whatever you call it, was rammed through people just like that. In Huntsville, I know for a fact, we had more than preliminary plans to review. You giving this guy a blank check. If you're showing a lot, you don't know how he's going to confirm, how the final layout's going to be. You don't know what the retention ponds are going to be. You don't know any of that. But I do know a cul-de-sac is not defined as 20 feet off the main road. It can be up to 1,000 feet. It's not necessarily a bulb. It can have a circular end. And this same thing is a cul-de-sac when you got a median down the middle, because you've got one entrance and one exit. So you define a cul-de-sac in numerous ways. And basically what he's telling me now is that you're violating your own subdivision regulations.
There is no plan to remove cul-de-sacs from our subdivision regulations. It's an impossibility. They're a necessary design element. I don't know where anybody would have gotten that impression. As I said, the statement that was provided to the paper was all about providing connections out of neighborhoods and limiting.
So you
their
stub,
use.
you're saying you stub instead of cul-de-sac.
Leave stub
to-
streets
to
instead of
connect to another
cul-de-sacs, how
street.
they've been done in the past.
I
You
understand.
stub to your neighboring
All right,
properties.
thanks, Lee. Andy, do you want to?
Yeah, hey Lee, do we have the TVs available for the slides that we have?
We do, yes.
Sir,
He asked about TVs.
I've got slides, okay, good.
Nathan Tomberlin, 3112 Village Creek Road, Decatur, Alabama. With Purite McAnally, we're representing Mr. Villarreal and assistance in helping him with the rezoning. I guess before we get to the slides, there were some questions that were asked, and I thought I might try to answer these best I can. I believe Mr. Blythe, Ms. Gillingham have brought up flooding and wetlands issues. There is a floodplain that cuts through the property. The floodplain does not have a delineated floodway, but the floodplain extends, as some of you might know, past Upper or Old River Road, and there's really no regulations to if we can fill or do work in the floodplain. We just have to meet a certain design elevation above the floodplain in order to meet the criteria of the city and FEMA requirements. As far as the wetlands is actually we're not aware of any wetlands on the site. If there are any wetlands, they would need to be delineated and sent to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for confirmation if there's wetlands on site or whatnot. But Mr. Villarreal had elected to share some slides with the public just to show you exactly what the target apartments are going to be looking like. And they're not up there, so do we have those?
I think Brad's going to help us. You think we'll be able to get it or no?
Take your time.
How long will it take?
Take your time.
Andy, do y'all, it's gonna take a little bit to get the slides up. Do you wanna wait and do that?
No, I'll go ahead.
Okay.
They can bring the slide.
Let's just keep going.
Andy Villarreal. I live at 1322 Brentwood Lane, southeast. I had a lot of other things to say tonight, but after hearing some insinuations that's been made, I definitely want to remark because it has to do with myself and my integrity. So, first of all, when I started this project, I reached out to people in the subdivision myself. So I called Mr. Blight. I talked to Mr. Hill, talked to Mr. Suggs, who's a friend of mine. I hope he's still a friend of mine. And
I'm a friend of yours.
thank you. And, you know, I explained the project and what we plan to do. I told Mr. Hill that I'd be glad to come to any meeting that they wanted me to come to. All they had to do was call me. I would be glad to come to any meeting. I was never called about any meeting. There was plenty of meetings held. I was not called once about any meeting to attend to. I would have been happy to go to any meeting to explain. And so when things are brought up about meetings and neighborhood meetings, that we should have these, you're right, we should have. But when you don't include the person that's doing the building, then that's your problem. That's your fault, not mine. I put myself out there when I didn't have to, and I made myself available at any time to come to any meeting. So to say that sort of thing, that's not correct. All my wife and me have gotten is threatening emails that I have turned over to my attorney. That is all we've had. And so, you know, to sit up here, and I've heard people talk about treating somebody the right way as you want to be treated, hey, you're exactly right. But I haven't been. And so, you know, it's fine to, as you said, talk the talk, but when it comes time to execute, that wasn't done. And also there's been talk about all we care about is the dollar. As Mr. Tubbs said, all we care about is making a profit on it. I've been doing business in this town, my wife and I and my family, for 40 years. In that 40 years, our family has given to nonprofits in this community over $1 million. So I challenge any one of y'all, any of y'all, to challenge that. For somebody to get up here and talk about my integrity and my family and what we think about and what we do in this city. I've been here for 40 years, and we've donated back to this city to make this city better. And when you come up here and talk about my integrity and myself like that, then you come at me. So it's not about the dollar. I've owned that property for 37 years and haven't done anything on it. And my son and his father-in-law have built 7 of these projects in different communities. And they've done a darn good job with it. And every community that they have built in, they've been super happy with the product that they received. And that's the same group that will be part of this project. And, you know, we're also smart businessmen too. So we know that what we need to do out of these units to make them profitable so that we can sustain them as a first-class unit. They're not Section 8. These units will go from anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. And when you say nobody's going to spend $1,500 to live in Decatur, you're out of touch, because they're paying $1,500 to $1,600 to live in Madison and Huntsville and drive to Decatur to work. So they will pay it. They'd rather be here and not drive from Madison and Huntsville. Those students that are at the hospital are paying $1,500 and $1,600 a month, and they're driving. They'd much rather be here in Decatur, and they will pay it. The reason that you don't see apartments that much because we haven't built them in 26 years. If you don't build something in 26 years, yeah, you've got the stuff from 26 years ago, and that's what you're going to get out of it.
And
So,
last strap up.
fine. So, all I say is, you know, be careful how you come up here and talk about somebody and what things should be done and everything else if you don't follow up on what you say.
Thanks, Andy. Hey, guys, come on. Hey, Nathan, you can go ahead. Thanks, man.
The drawing that was emailed to Lee?
This is the email to me, and I sent it to Brad.
Okay.
Which slide do you want?
Either one, I mean, I can run through both of them. I guess Andy wanted to share the floor plan and.
Okay, so that, the floor plan?
Nope. These are just a couple of examples that we're using. My disclaimer is I'm a civil engineer and not an architect. Typically my work starts 5 feet outside of the building, but we do utilize these footprints and design a site around these. But these were the floor plans that they were sort of targeting, which was between 1 bedroom and 3 bedrooms. And you can go to the next file as well. And from my understanding, Andy, these are some examples of some of the units that your son had built that have already been built. And this is just typically gives you an idea of what the product would look like.
Where are those? These are between, I would say, Brooks, Georgia, and Douglasville, maybe, or Brooks and Douglas, Georgia.
So there's quite a bit you could scroll through and just kind of see the product.
So these don't back up to an R2 neighborhood?
Some of them do.
Do they?
Yes. Not all of them, but there's probably 2 of them that do.
They have parking in the rear. I saw one slide where it looked like it had parking in the rear.
I'm not really sure on that one.
That would interfere with the other thing.
I don't have anything else.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
All right. That's everybody that signed in to speak and heard from the developer and his engineer. Is there anybody, Mr. Hill, anyone that would like to add anything new?
I could just say one more thing.
Okay.
I'll keep it short, I promise.
Yes, sir.
You know, I had really hoped that we wouldn't reach this. Mr. Villarreal, I meant you no harm or anything else. But those neighborhood meetings and stuff, my understanding is that was to be done, like the site plans and stuff, major site plans are to be done at the time of the application. We didn't see any of that. Again, I have nothing against you or any of the members. It's just things seem to be moving a little fast according to people that have seen these type of things in the past. Guys, I really don't understand what the problem would be with just waiting 45, 30 days. That traffic study, AlDOT, I just talked to a lady, Julie Sandlin from Florence, Alabama. She's AlDOT person. And talked to her about there is a requirement for anything that's gonna run along, or, well, not, something that runs along Highway 67 that's gonna impact the traffic there, when you've already got major problems there already. Anywhere from 140 apartment building is one of the things that sets it off, and several other things, but we talked about the requirements for doing it. We'd like to see the traffic impact study done. The last one was done in 2020. The ALDOT thing says if it's over 2 years old, then yeah, another one needs to be done. So, again, we're not here to get in a big argument with anybody or create enemies. All we want is some fairness, and I really don't understand what the big deal would be to wait a few days or to give it time to do these studies and have them done beforehand, before we start adding on more to the traffic that's already there, the problems we already have. So I'm asking you one more time, please vote no. I don't see a big hurry for this. I really don't. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Hill. All right, anyone else need to add anything? Mr. Abbott did something new.
I'd like to make one last observation. If I'm not mistaken, the city of Decatur has elections for the whole council at one time, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Basically, all four of you but Mr. Jackson are newcomers. I wish you would consider staggering your elections where you don't have complete clean slate of new councilmen each time. That way you've got some familiarity on the council. That's all.
Thank you. Did you have some, I didn't see your name on here, but if you'd like to add something, you can. Yes, sir. I just saw you kind of motion, but if you do, you're going to have to come to the podium.
One of the ladies.
Sir, if you can come to the podium. Yes, sir. Just state your name and address so I can get you down.
I'm sorry, I got here too late to sign.
Yes, sir.
earlier.
Go. That's fine.
My name is Rodney Gann. I live at 2903 Hunterwood Drive, Southeast in Hickory Hill subdivision. And one of the ladies had spoken about someone getting hit. Well, at the last public hearing we had here, I mentioned my son sitting right here. He was struck by a car in our neighborhood. At the time, I think he was probably 7, 8 years old. He was wearing a helmet, thank God, but it split his helmet all the way in half. He knocked a hole in the windshield of the lady's car, size of a basketball. It flung him 40 or 50 feet. He had road rash all over his body. They thought his ankle was broken, and I guess a miracle when they x-rayed it wasn't. And the swelling went down even while he was there in the hospital. But I don't see how you're gonna widen Upper River Road to enable it to get into Highway 67. I don't know, 67 is the state highway, but I don't know if the feds will even let you put a traffic light there or not because of the proximity of the game refuge. And then when the traffic backs up, and believe me, it backs up in the mornings, it backs up sometimes even at noon, but certainly in the afternoons it backs up. And you got people that are coming from Huntsville, Madison, they're coming the back way down around through Lacey Springs and up that way to get, so they don't have to hit the 565 traffic. So they're coming up Upper River Road, which compounds the problem of just the in-town traffic and then people going back and forth. So how are you going to widen it? What are you going to do? There's a flashing yellow light there now. But I don't think you'll be allowed to put a stoplight there. And if you do, the feds probably won't let you widen 67. It's already 4 lanes. And this morning, I drove over to Hartselle. I drove 55 miles an hour down 65, or down 67 there. And everyone was honking and passing me. They're coming off the interstates, they're coming the other ways, and they're not driving 65 miles an hour. And then when the traffic backs up at that intersection, they're gonna go around the back way, and they're gonna go through rolling hills and come out at another intersection just probably 1,000 feet or yards maybe that comes out on 67 there. They're gonna come that way, which is gonna compound the problem even more. So the traffic, it's a major issue. And my thing is, you know, when we have another fatality there, give me each of your home numbers and I'll call you, and I'll let you come out. I worked 7 years in EMS before I worked 20 years for NARCOG. But let me have your home number, and when we have another fatality there, I'll let you come out and watch them spread sheets over pieces of bodies that have been spread all over the road. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Gann.
June 7th, 1998. Guy's like a second dad to me on a motorcycle, headed towards town. Somebody heading into Rolling Hills. You mentioned it at the last meeting. We went out there that night and picked up his bracelet off the side of the road. I'll never forget the look on my dad's face when he picked it up. Ever.
Once you picked up a body that's been splattered, you'll never forget it.
I believe you 100%. I don't need a study to tell me that intersection's dangerous. We've had a ton of studies. We approved the realignment in December before this ever came to pass. And you're right, it's a study right now. But I think looking down this dais right here, and after listening to everybody in this room, I would hope that we have the support to go forward with those improvements. You know,
Can we do
that,
that before the apartments?
Carlton, you wanna?
Do away with the apartments.
Why can't it be,
Yeah.
why can't it be done while we're building the apartments?
Is there anybody else in the public hearing? All right, I think we've got everybody on the list. Thank you, you guys that added, and I think we were able to accomplish that and get everybody's full thoughts. With that, we will close the public hearing, and open the floor for a motion.
I've got one more question from planning, if I
Do you
can.
want to get a motion and second for discussion? All right. I got a motion for Mr. Pepper, second for Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Mr. Terry, we've heard about Trojan horses. Can you, A, describe the pre-zoning and why this was asked for? And can you tell me what happens if this is not pre-zoned?
So pre-zoning is, I call it a newish tool that the state gave to cities. It basically reverses the typical annexation assignment of zoning process to where you get your zoning question answered first, and then you have 6 months to annex in. It was provided as a tool for cities for developments such as this. It gets the number one question that all developers need to know when they're looking at these projects first, which is, can I get the proper zoning for the project that I want to do before I move on to the next step, because each one of these steps is money for a developer. So you get your zoning question answered first. While your annexation is going, then you start to work on your site plan or any other part of the engineering where you start spending money. But basically was the intent, was to be able to get that question answered first in the process.
And if this is not pre-zoned and remains in the county, what happens?
There are no zoning protections outside the city limits. There is no control that zoning provides as far as what the uses of the property could be.
But it's in the PJ, they would still have to come before us to get permission to do what they need to do, though.
Not as far as use of the property, no. There's no zoning protections outside the city limits.
We allow, how is that accurate?
The law has changed. We don't have any control as far as subdivision regs outside of our corporate limits now.
Well, not necessarily subdivisions, but if someone wanted to put a trailer court there, that would.
We don't have any control over that. That's zoning.
That's controlled by zoning,
we don't
and
control
our zoning
outside
does
our
not
corporate
extend
limits.
past the city limits.
No, we don't control the use outside our corporate limits. And the county has no zoning.
They would still have to come before us for any sort of building. If someone builds outside of our city limits and the PJ, they still have to go before our building department, correct?
They had to get a building permit, but they do not have to meet subdivision, as far as, all that, that's all county would determine that. The law just changed a few months ago.
All right. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to say that the study that we used for traffic was, I think we found that it was done for a done actually for the 2013-2016. And at that particular time, there was no Chrysler High School. There was no Publix. So the traffic design that, well, the traffic study that was done at that particular time is not the same as one that would be done today. It's just not the same. One thing that kind of concerned me, I came to the planning commission meeting, as did some other council members, but Lee talked about the unanimous consent. And there was an hour and 24 minutes worth of discussion from citizens who had concerns. But when the vote was called, Ms. Tate asked one question, the question was answered, and they went directly into the vote, as if, you know, we already knew what we were going to do. Ms. Reeves said that there are no apartments where people want to live, and that's probably true. But when the apartments in the Brookline area, and they're needed, those apartments in the Brookline area are needed, but when they were built, they were labeled as higher-end apartments too, and they're not anymore. I think that people often make the association that new rooftops are synonymous with population growth, and I don't see that. I don't think any planner is going to tell you that new rooftops equal population growth. I mean, they're new rooftops, but there's no real, unless there's a count, we don't know if that's actual population growth or people just moving around. So I don't know that we can equate that to population growth. My track record has been consistent for my entire time on council. I don't know that you can always go along with what the public or the body wants in a neighborhood. You just can't always go. But I think that people invest in a neighborhood, and they should have a reasonable expectation of what goes into that neighborhood. We've heard people tonight talk about they lived in that community for 20 years and 25 years and decades. And I think that we at all costs should give all consideration to those people, because they built in that community, they bought in that community, they invested in that community, and they have had a reasonable expectation of what that community was going to bring to them. This is completely outside of the scope of their neighborhood plan. I mean, we're talking apartments now. We're talking something that's totally different or totally foreign from what their neighborhood looks like now. The mayor said at the planning commission meeting that Dr. Douglas was going to have about 100 teachers who were going to need places at the end of this year. And he went on to say that more than likely the apartments wouldn't be ready this year, and that's accurate. But he said that those teachers are going to need a place to live. But at $1,100 to $1,400, or whatever the high-end cost of these apartments is going to be, a teacher starting out at $38,000 a year, they're going to bring home $30,000 a year after taxes, and that's going to be $2,400, $2,500 a month. They can't afford to stay there either. So it's kind of interesting that, you know, we're rushing through this thing again for a second time tonight, and I just don't think that this is something that is conducive to that neighborhood. Again, I think everybody who spoke here tonight wants to see growth in the city of Decatur. I think everybody wants to see that. But I don't think that this necessarily equates to growth. So that's where I am on this issue, and I will not support this tonight.
Thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other? Thank you. Any other discussion?
Yeah, I'm gonna say something. This area is not my district. I tend to say I represent the folks of the city of Decatur because I care about the whole city of Decatur, but I only represent the folks of District 4. And there's nothing more in this world that I want to see than my district grow and this city grow together. A point I want to make really quickly is a lot of people kept saying that they don't want to see this in their backyard, or if it was in our backyard, we wouldn't want to see it. And I want to tell you that you're wrong. And from my perspective, there's a plot behind my house. I live on Modus Road, right near Cedar Ridge, or I guess it's Austin Middle now. And there's a plot behind my road, and it's a very open little area, and it'd be perfect for a little apartment complex. And for anybody that says there's not apartment complexes there, if you drive on Glen Street, there are multiple low-income apartment complexes there that I guess when they first were built were kind of upscale in a way, but renters have torn them down because rent is so cheap. And I'm not saying that cheap rent gets you the worst people in the world, because it always don't. But One thing I wanna reference is does anybody know who, does anybody know what Wheeler Estates Apartments is? Wheeler Estates Apartments is an apartment complex on McIntyre Lane. Their address is 134 McIntyre Lane. I used to reside at Wheeler Estates Apartments. That was the first place I moved to when I moved out of home. Wheeler Estates Apartments was built in 2001. Right next door to Wheeler Estates is Ashbury Park and Wingate Way. That's a little kind of a brand new subdivision in a way. Wingate Way and Ashbury Park was built in 2013, and there were multiple single-family detached homes, averaging 2 to 3 bedrooms, and their price range started at $235,000 a piece. 2 years into each house being built, the entire neighborhood was sold out. Entire neighborhood was sold out. There's 35 houses in that area, and if you look in the backyard of the 20 houses that face Wheeler Estates Apartments, all flooring, every flooring, there's no fencing. There's no fencing that blocks anything. Everybody can see in everybody's backyard. You don't hear any complaints there because it was built in 2013. It was built afterwards. Folks chose to move into those residents. They chose to move into those houses. They chose to. Now, I understand where you're coming from. You say you don't want a new apartment complex coming in your area and you don't want somebody to be able to look in your backyard. Well, don't get me wrong, but you speak for yourself, you don't speak for everyone. Because somebody like me, that's growth. That's growth in the city that I want to see grow. And for folks that say that doesn't create population growth, I disagree. If you look in Huntsville, and I don't like to reference Huntsville very much because they're much larger in size than we are, but if you look at the growth amounts that they've had from 2000, 2010, and 2020, it's tremendous. They've got 200 apartment complexes that are considered upscale apartment complexes, and they're pretty successful. Don't get me wrong, Huntsville has its crime rate just as we do, but I want you to know it's almost impossible to prevent crime in a lot of situations, because if I walk out here and I'm fixing to go punch John Doe, you can't stop me because you don't know that I'm going to do that until I do it. So I want you to know that you can't prevent me from burglarizing a vehicle because you didn't know that I was going to do that until I did that. Now, having law enforcement presence in the area does help, but I want you to know that there is an officer that lives in my area close to a neighborhood, and there was a squad car that was parked out front of his residence, and right next door, every car in their driveway was busted in, windows busted out, as there is a squad car sitting right next door. There's video camera footage of it. I watched it. I sat there and watched it because they hooped and hollered at me and said that we have a problem with crime in our area. There's only so much we can do, and there's only so much the police department can do. And I know that y'all say that we need to do traffic studies. We can't prevent car accidents. I want you to know I work in EMS. I haven't worked in it very long. I'm 9 months in, and out of the 9 months that I've been here, I ran more wrecks than I ever thought I would a day in my life. And out of those wrecks, I want you to know they couldn't have been prevented. They were accidents. People make mistakes. It happens. I got rear-ended on Beltline 6 months ago by a gentleman that made a mistake. His foot slipped. Foot slipped the brake pedal and he rear-ended me. It happens. And to the gentleman that says, picking up somebody off the side of the road is something you'll never forget, it's something you will never forget. And it's something horrible that I hope none of you ever have to see. And I'm sure some of you have seen it. But if you say that traffic studies are going to prevent car accidents, you're full of it. You're wrong. You're wrong. I want you to know you're wrong. Because the years and years and years and years and years of studies that have been done behind it that say it's going to prevent it, I want you to know, let's repeat this one more time, you are wrong. I've seen it with my own eyes. Every single day, I'm telling you, you can say, come on all you want.
Can I just call the
but
question?
I understand. Let me finish my comment.
We have a motion to call the question, and we have to vote on that.
I'm spending more money on studies.
Guys, come on, we have a motion to call the question. Sorry, we've got to listen to that. Motion by Mr. Pike, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Pepper. Any discussion on that? No. Roll call. No.
Wait, hold on. Sorry.
Clarify the vote. We're voting, if this passes, Herman, we would immediately go into the vote and discussion would be ended.
Okay.
You're voting to call the question.
Yeah, immediately. There will be no more discussion among the council.
Say it again, what are we doing?
He called the question, so motion, call the question second. And now we're voting. I voted no.
No, this just cuts off the further discussion.
Yes.
what it does.
It would go immediately into a vote on the
Right.
ordinance.
No.
Jackson?
No.
No.
All right, that fails 4-1. Any other discussion for council?
With me, most of you have called me. I've called most of you back, or emailed, and I've come out and I've met with you. My fear this whole time, it's gone beyond departments with me. I know you guys don't want it. I know you don't. I wouldn't either. I wouldn't. The biggest fear I have, and I've told anybody who's asked this since day one, what happens if the city doesn't control it? Because of that, I'm going to grit my teeth and I'm gonna vote yes.
All right, any other discussion? I just have a couple of things I would like to say. First, I know everybody's on social media. There's been a lot of comments about this development and things said in the paper. And I would just say there's been comments about campaign donations and things and in reference to Mr. McMasters. And I'm offended by those comments because you're calling into question his character. And even implying that is ridiculous, that he somehow bought. This is a guy that has tremendously high character. I didn't know him before we ran for office, but gotten to know him, and I took offense to the shots that were taken at him. During the Planning Commission meeting, I watched that on the live stream, and there was an attorney from Huntsville that came and spoke, and he said, this is an exact quote of what he said: "I'm a proud Huntsvillian. We are thriving. We have a lot of people moving to Huntsville. We have a lot of great restaurants, and it's great. But people who want that move there, and people in Decatur like Decatur the way it is." And that's okay. I respect people that think that about Decatur. That is not why I ran for office. It better not be the same in 5 years. It better not, in 2025. Or I did a terrible job. That's my thoughts on this issue. I do appreciate, I did go out meet with Mr. Blythe. Randy was there, got to talk to Abe a little bit on that as well, but that's all I've got to say. Any other discussion?
I'm just gonna add to it. Look, I really respect each and every one of you for coming out tonight and fighting for the area that you live in. I don't know if it's gonna go your way, and I want you to know that I respect you either way for coming out and fighting for what y'all believe in. And it shows that y'all have a lot of love and care for your community, and I want to appreciate both of you. I met with both of you, and I know that y'all care a lot for your area that you live in, and I want you to know that either way, that our goal in the end, at least I'm speaking for myself here, and I hope I'm speaking for the rest of the council, is to grow this city. And this does not always come with the best decision making in the world, but it's a task that we're left with, and in the end, it's a decision that we're going to have to make, and no matter what, we're going to have to suffer with the consequences afterwards. But it's a decision that if we believe it is right to do and right to grow, then it's what we need to do.
Thanks, Mr. Pepper. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMasters?
Aye.
Jackson?
No.
Aye. Pepper?
Aye.
Ordinance 224499 is approved with a vote of 4-1. We're going to take a recess until 8:10.
Sorry. We're gonna give it till 8:13.
We ready? All right, call the meeting back into order. We got to G, public hearings. Ordinance number 22-4500, approved rezoning request 138622 Morningside Patel to rezone 3.51 acres from B1 to B2 located at 1801, 1814 11th Street Southeast. Public hearing was set March 7th, 2022.
Yes, rezoning 138622. The request on this one, rezone 3.51 acres from B1, which is our local shopping district, to B2 general business. And this was unanimously not recommended by the Planning Commission for approval.
Okay, this is a public hearing. If there's anyone here to speak on this item, you can speak now if you would like to. Just state your name and address, and we'll do 3 minutes.
My name is Lisa Chadwell. I reside at 1619 11th Street Southeast at Granada Apartments. I'm also the manager there. I am opposed to this because we do share a property line with this place, and they also share a property line with the Baptist Children's Home. And what he says he wants to do and what could come there once it's rezoned is my concern. We have children that get off the school bus there, that walk to and from school. The elementary school right around the corner backs up to that also, to the children's home. So that's my concern.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is there anyone here to speak on this? Speak on this? Okay, seeing no one else here to speak, we will consider the public hearing closed.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pepper, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've spoke to 7 people, 2 of which were not in the immediate neighborhood. The rest did live right around there, all in opposition of this. They stated real similar concerns, so I will not be supporting this tonight.
I think that, Lee, B2 is probably the broadest zoning that we have, correct?
As far as our commercial districts, yes, it is the most broadest, it is the broadest, encompasses the most amount of commercial uses.
And basically anything can go there?
Yes, any kind of general commercial enterprise can go there, including the allowance of pawn shops, and that's one of the biggest differences between the B1 and the B2 is the allowance of the pawn shops and check cashing.
So, but there are a lot more things that could go in there that might be even less conducive to neighborhood style.
That's the intent of the B1 is neighborhood servicing uses, small markets, things of that nature. Whereas our B2 is just our general broad category that you find more on like our expressways, our major thoroughfares is where you would generally find these B2 zones.
So unless this business stays there forever, basically, we can't dictate what goes there after this business is gone.
Once it's rezoned, and if this business were to go out of business, then yes, anything allowed in B2 could go into that space.
Thanks.
Lee, my only question, and I think I asked this in the meeting before, but this seems to have come up a lot where and even earlier it's kind of, we had that discussion of they already sell beer and wine in that store, do I need to stop? I know, I like that. And I know we had one went before the Planning Commission and got tabled last month, but if there's some way to just look at that where I think a lot of the neighborhoods around there would be okay if it was specifically for that use, but not with the broad B2.
I can say that is something we are hearing now more than we ever have in the past. It's been a while since we've looked at our alcohol ordinances citywide. It might be time to start looking at those and having those conversations again, just because of how many times it's coming
I
up.
hate to penalize, and I don't know this developer at all. I don't know the one that was brought either, that Planning Commission, but I hate to say no to something they want to do, I'm going to, but I hate to say no to something they want to do just because it's everything else that could happen.
Yes.
But I won't, this is, a no vote concurs with the planning commission said here.
And there's no way we could do a use permitted on appeal through BOZA, just because it's alcohol related.
Not allowable
I mean,
by our zoning, no.
I have the same,
Unfortunately.
kind of questions that Mr. Ladner does is, well, it's just this one thing, and, obviously we saw it again in planning, and that neighborhood seemed to be conducive with it, and it's like, well, I understand the protection of not allowing the B2, but.
Well, and that's typically how those changes come about, is when we start seeing it and see that, oh, okay, this isn't working anymore. So I definitely think that's a discussion that we can have going forward, and it sounds like we need to have that discussion sooner rather than
And look
later.
in the way maybe other municipalities around us that we have relationships
certainly
with
can,
do it a
yes.
different way. All right, any other discussion? Roll call? No?
No.
Jackson?
No.
Pepper?
No. All right, ordinance number 224500 fails with a vote of 5-0. All right, resolutions. Resolution number 22071, declare a rail car no longer needed by Decatur Fire and Rescue as surplus and authorize disposal.
Yes, sir, Tracy Thornton, Fire Chief, Decatur Fire. This is a rail car we got donated to us over 20 years ago. They give it to us for training purposes. It was almost obsolete then, and it is obsolete now, and it's no longer used.
All right.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
McMaster?
Aye.
Jackson?
Aye.
Pike?
Aye.
Pepper?
Aye. Resolution 22071 is approved 5-0. Resolution 22072, approved purchase and upgrades to the police department range gate.
Mayor, Council, this is to approve the motor and the gate to have a key card entrance that we all have for the range out there, so our officers can go out there and use it on a regular basis.
All right. Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I don't, most of these that are gonna follow this one, I don't have a problem with at all. I can't support it because, of course, they're coming out of the unassigned fund balance again. And it's as if we're working outside our budget. And our budget is there, and we have mid-year, and we have opportunity to do these things using the unassigned fund balance at mid-year and in our budget process, but we've gone outside of it, so I won't support that tonight.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion?
Well, just that, our CFO, the practice that you use in putting a budget together is based on not earmarking or not doing maybes. It's based on actual needs. And we have the unassigned fund balance to take care of things like Chief Pinion is bringing up today. Is that accurate?
Correct. Yeah, I'll just add, items like this, we can do our best to predict what we'll need to spend in a year, but, obviously there are things that come up, we have emergencies come up, we have items that need to be addressed, and that kind of takes care of this throughout the year.
Yeah, I think Mr. Jackson, there's a mid-year for that, and we could wait till that time to approve any of these non-emergency type expenditures.
Yeah. Also, based on that, anything we have on our wish list, if we choose to, we can use that fund for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Unassigned fund balance is essentially cash.
So again, so I guess my point is that we continue spending, and we can just continually go for our wish list if we choose to, if the council decides to. We can just continually spend out of our unassigned fund balance. So that's my concern. Nothing against the gate, nothing against anything you're doing. I just can't support it from where it's coming from.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? Roll call.
Pfeiffer?
Aye.
McMaster?
Aye.
Jackson?
No.
Pike?
Aye.
Pepper?
Aye. Resolution 22072 is approved 4-1. Resolution 22073, approved power pole and meter installation for improvements of gate at Police Department range.
Where it's at, this is just where the easiest way to supply the power to the gates for the motor.
So moved. Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Same situation.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye. Aye. Resolution 22073 is approved 4-1. Resolution 22074, approve the upgrade and replacement of lights at Jimmy John's Tennis Complex.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We have been replacing the lights at Jimmy John's Tennis Center with LED lights over the last year and a half, 2 years. But those were with the existing poles that are there, existing poles and pieces that are there. But it didn't work. Is when you were out playing, there was just so many dark spots and all that. So after many complaints, we went and got a lighting study done. And the information that's in front of you now is what came from that lighting study.
I have one question. With this, I'm sure these LED, so it's a retro head change out. So I'm sure they come with a 5-year parts warranty, right? Do we know what, I mean, what my concern is, there's so many LED manufacturers now, and I see it in my job. It's like we go in, it's like, oh, well, you can't fix this part. You got to buy a whole new one, and then it's,
Right.
So, you know, obviously we're using something that's.
Well, and I agree with you 100% because you can get in problems doing that. What we found was if you look at the lights at Jack Allen, that's all must-go lighting.
Okay.
It's a brand you can depend on. The way the lights are done, they're directional lighting, so you don't get a ton of light outside the area, but the area is lit up very well. We've had a lot of success with that lighting, but you're right about some of the other.
I just wanted to make sure, you know, when you said must go, okay.
Right.
All right, any other discussion?
This is up to $250,000, Jason?
That, what they gave us was from 230 to 250. We would ask for 250.
And this is unassigned fund balance, correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, any other discussion? Roll call. Roll call, sorry. Oh, was there not?
So
Just
moved.
kidding. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. I actually write it down so you can go look at it. Any other discussion? Thank you. Roll call. Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye. Resolution 22074 is approved 4-1. That's why it's good to have an excellent city clerk.
Yeah, even better. Thank you, Eric.
All right, resolution 22075, authorize the mayor to execute a community service agreement with the Decatur Downtown Merchants and Business Association.
Evening, Council. This is a resolution to authorize the mayor to sign a community service agreement with the Decatur Downtown Merchants and Business Association. Their role is they handle the logistics of our Third Friday events. They came across some troubles with fundraising this year. What that meant was the first Third Friday was probably not going to happen. The city decided to step up and ensure that it did happen, and that's where the funding will be used for.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Dee Dee, do you want to come just kind of share with us where that need came from?
Bet you're glad you asked to do it tonight, huh?
Well, I've had times where my nerves to settle, right?
Just remember, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. All right, start. So I am the, I guess the newly appointed president of the Downtown Merchants Association, and we were seeing that we didn't have the sponsorships that we've had in the past years, and we were not going to be able to start our Third Friday until May, and that is, as everybody knows, that's a huge draw for our community. That's a huge draw for sales revenue for our city. Just in that one night alone, there's, I know for myself, I have a business down on 2nd Avenue, almost fixing to have 2. So we are looking forward to Third Friday, and that is a huge draw with everything that's going on in our city and the redevelopment of downtown. It's a very much needed event for our town.
Okay, thanks, Dee Dee. We do have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
So designated again?
Sure.
Undesignated?
Yes, sir.
All of these are okay, thank you.
Yeah, they all are.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
Aye.
No.
Aye.
Aye.
Resolution 22075 is approved with a vote of 4 to 1. And thank you, Dee Dee, for your investment in downtown and the new one that's coming. I can't wait to go get some ice cream.
Yeah.
Yes.
How late do you stay open?
All right, next is Resolution 22076, approve Garver Engineering Agreement for Upper River Road intersection improvements at Indian Hills Road and Old River Road.
Yes, Mayor, Council, this is funding for the design, the engineering design for the Upper River Road, Indian Hills, Old River Road intersection.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMasters, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
Just because Carl assured me that this is a safety issue, of course, we know about the traffic out there, I will support this one tonight.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Jackson. Any other discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22076 is approved 5 to 0. Next is Resolution 22077, approve expenditure for 3 furnished toolboxes from Home Depot Pro Omnia contract 16154 for the city garage.
And council, this is tools to adequately supply our shop for our employees to be successful. We really need these tools.
Second.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22077 is approved 4 to 1. Next is Resolution 22078, accept donation from Decatur Foundation of Greater Decatur for dog park shades in the amount of $55,000.
Council, this resolution will allow us to spend $55,000 from the Ann Mayfield Trust to be spent on dog park shades.
Okay.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion?
I just want to again thank former Councilmember Bibby, because had she not thought about this, we probably would be in this position, so it's just that she remembered it and it was there, so I want to thank her again.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, having that thought and calling Ms. Wiley, and Ms. Wiley went and presented the, what was needed at the dog park to the group, and it seemed like something that would fit what the trust was intended for. So thanks to both of those folks. Any other discussion? Roll call? Aye.
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 Resolution 22078 is approved 5 to 0. Next is Resolution 22079, award bid number 22020R for a tower Christmas tree lights of Christmas in the amount of $113,725.08.
Council President, Mayor, and Council, I'm Charles Booth, purchase agent for the city. The breakdown of this cost is the first year is a little over $104,000. Each subsequent year is around a little over $9,000.
Amber Alert. Montgomery, we're okay.
So it's not a one-year deal. It's artificial. It goes up. It's 30 feet tall, decorated, lighted, with topper anchored at the bottom. It's taken down each year, and they store it for us and bring it back the next year and set it back up for us.
Okay.
So moved.
Second. Motion by Mr. McMaster, second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call. Aye.
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 Resolution 22079 is approved 4 to 1.
You're hurting Kelly's feelings. She can't speak about it, but
Ordinance's first readings. Ordinance number 224504, approve option agreement with Richard Winstead for purchase of Second Avenue lots 5 and 6.
Yes, this is adjoining a lot that we approved in January. This is for a larger footprint for approximately 75 Class A apartments.
I'd like to make a motion for immediate consideration.
Okay, we have a motion for immediate consideration by Mr. Pepper.
Well, it's gonna have to be advertised.
What?
Is it not? It's an ordinance.
So why?
Okay, so it's been advertised. This is just the first
This is first reading.
I got you. All right, very good. Sorry, go ahead.
No, okay. We have a motion by Mr. Pepper for immediate consideration.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blidner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson.
No.
Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
All right, that immediate consideration fails with a vote of 4-1. Next is ordinance, that was a first reading though, so we'll come back in 2 weeks. Ordinance number 224505, approve option agreement with Richard Winstead for purchase of Second Avenue lots 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, and 30.
Yeah, this is the lot that's behind it. It's a larger lot that the city owns. It's connected to all three lots. That gives the bigger footprint for the 75 Class A apartments. So all three combined is where it'll be.
I'd like to make a motion for immediate consideration.
We have a motion for immediate consideration by Mr. Pepper,
I'll second.
second by Mr. Pike. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blidner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
That immediate consideration vote fails with a vote of 4-1. Next is ordinance number 224506, approved dissolution of the Park and Recreation Board. Jason.
We're recommending making this change based on other options that we have that we found successful. I brought up Susie earlier. Susie, she has a passion for Wilson Morgan Park. There's many people all over, if it's, let's say, pickleball is, if I want to know about pickleball, because I didn't know anything about pickleball, I went and found folks that knew about pickleball and were passionate about it.
That's going to be a real big board.
That's going to be a big board. You're right, and getting bigger. So, right. But I think having people that are passionate about the things, because we don't want just a certain number of people to advise us on what we can do better or do different. We want everybody in the city to feel that way. So we ask for that change.
All right, this is a first reading. Thanks, Jason. Any questions for Jason? Any discussion? All right, we'll move to boards and committees. Appoint Jackson Parker to the DDRA board to fill unexpired term of Jack Bryan with term expiring June 21st, 2026.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blidner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
That appointment of Jackson Parker is approved with a vote of 5-0. Next is appoint Meg Newcomb to the DDRA board with term expiring June 1st, 2028. Motion by Mr. McMasters. Second, sorry, I'm losing it. Motion by Mr. Pike, second by Mr. McMasters. Any discussion? Roll call.
Blidner.
Aye.
McMaster.
Aye.
Jackson. Pike.
Aye.
Pepper.
Aye.
That appointment of Meg Newcomb is approved with a vote of 5-0. The next council work session will be held on April 11th, 2022 at 5 p.m. The next regular council meeting will be held on April 18th, 2022 at 10 a.m. Anything else from directors? Mayor?
No, sir.
Anything else from council?
Yeah, I've got something. Sorry, I don't want to be the guy to hold everybody up. But this was brought to my attention. There's a park in my district. It's Austinville Park. It's on Lamar Street. The park that was there when I was growing up, had a playground and things to do. And I know that we're talking about putting parks in different areas of the city. But this is a park that I had and a park that was taken away. And I feel like we need to try and produce some efforts into replacing the playground equipment.
I know you told me earlier today you have not had access to city email. Mr. Lake actually sent an email to, I think me and Carl, or me and
I don't mind speaking.
Hunter. Yeah, if you don't mind just updating him on that. So.
Sorry, I haven't had access to my city email. I thought I would let you know that.
Okay. Alan Stover and I have been working on different things to go in that park. There were people from the community that Alan spoke to originally that gave the idea about that park. That's what we went by when we did what we did, but Alan did keep money back to do a play set or do whatever they wanted in it.
I haven't gotten, they're talking about I haven't gotten a phone call about that. I haven't had one person complain to me about it, and then I've seen it on social media, people send it to me, because I don't read that stuff. But if I get a phone call about it, I can answer the question. If I don't get a phone call, I can't answer the question.
But there seems to be a plan in the works to replace some of the equipment.
We've been looking at this. We were going to go ahead and just put a playground in, but there's something else that's come along that you can read in your email that is a really good opportunity. We just need to make sure it's right for us, make sure we are looking thoroughly through that. That's what we're doing now. We don't expect it to take a whole lot longer.
Okay. Hunter, I can share the email with you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes, sir.
Let me say this. Because it's televised, I had an accident, and the outpouring of I guess, support during that time was truly tremendous. And the cards, people visiting, people that brought food by my house, emails, text, any sort of communication that you could think of, people reached out, and literally hundreds, even to the thousands, I won't say thousands, but well over 1,000 people have reached out to me. So I just want to thank all the people who, I've tried to reach out to people, and through text and email and every other way, and Facebook, and this is just another venue for me to be able to do that. So I appreciate everybody who was extended, reached out to me during that time, and it was really important to us and to me and my family. And I'll leave it at that. But the other thing, Herman, I'd like to ask you about, in March, we did the rezoning for the alcohol at CVS, and we talked about getting the written permission or written consideration from the church that was right now. Did we ever get that?
That's handled by revenue.
I think Lori said she received an email from them.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure we have
No,
something on file.
she committed to do that.
Kyle, can you check on that tomorrow?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anything else from council? I would just say, Mr. Jackson, good to see you tonight, so.
The touch, doing better.
All right, with that, we are adjourned. Thanks.